Chapter 317. The bleak cold wind swept through the entire land of Sanyi City with a whistling sound. At this time 3 figures, big or small, slender or tall, slowly appeared in the cold wind and came to this empty park. First a forest, then a factory ruins, and now a park? Ayoko walked at the front, as if telling herself that she had to move forward bravely. She scanned the entire park with a sharp gaze, and a hint of anger could be seen in her expression. How unscrupulous! Aren't they afraid of being seen by unrelated people? In the end, this should be your fault, right? Noah, who was walking behind Yuzhu, glanced at the surroundings as he purposely smiled. Isn't setting up the fulcrum of Myo City's barrier telling the enemy that they have to choose this place as the battlefield? Myo City's barrier was set up by Ayoko's grandfather, Yuzhu said in an indifferent tone. He purposely chose this place with a lot of people as the fulcrum point. It can't be helped that it turned into a battlefield. As long as one was a magician, they had to maintain the concealment of their magic. It was because of this that Ayoko's grandfather purposely chose this place with a lot of people to set up the fulcrum point. This way, as long as the enemy was a magician, they would have to worry about whether the fulcrum point would be seen by ordinary people and expose the concealment of their magic. At the very least, it was impossible for the other party to come here during the day to carry out the work of a magician when there were so many people coming and going. At night, they would also have to be cautious and think of ways to set up a barrier to drive people away. In a large sense, it would waste a lot of time, which was very beneficial to the manager of Sanyo City. I'm just afraid that the enemy is a madman who doesn't care about the lives of ordinary people, and can laugh as he wantonly kills. Noah said lightly, and then immediately changed the topic without giving Ayoko and Yuzhu any time to answer. Are you sure you detected the reaction of magic here? Myo City's barrier can only be deceived, there's no possibility of error. Yuzhu repeated expressionlessly, her pitch-black eyes looking straight ahead, as if she had already seen her opponent. The enemy is on the move, this is something that can be confirmed. Is that sneaky bastard starting to destroy the fulcrum again? Ayoko frowned. Could it be another mannequin sent out to distract the enemy? I have the same question. Noah shrugged. If that's the case, then this foreign magician's wallet is quite full. For now, the automatons that were controlled by magicians and used in magic battles were more or less useless. In terms of performance, an ordinary automaton wasn't as powerful as a familiar. If one wanted to create an automaton that could be used in battle, the cost of the materials required would be a figure that would make ordinary magicians speechless. Therefore, in this world, if there were still puppeteers who used puppets as their main method of fighting, they would most likely be collecting antiques that were left behind from the past to the present to do battle. Of course, if that was the case, the price of purchasing an automaton was also very expensive. Ordinary magicians simply couldn't afford it. Previously, Noah and Yuzhu had encountered 2 men with a split mouth in the forest. On the night when Noah's true identity was discovered, he had also broken an automaton. In other words, the other party had already used 3 expensive antiques during this period of time. If this foreign magician still sent out a mannequin this time, then one could imagine how rich his wallet was. Regardless of whether it's the real person or the mannequin, the opponent this time is Ayoko. Yuzhu glanced at Noah lightly. Your opponent is that fantasy breed. Yuzhu's words made the 2 people present react. Noah didn't care and turned his head away, but his gaze toward Ayoko was more or less serious. Ayoko looked calm on the surface, but hidden in the depths of her pale eyes was a stifling pressure that made it hard for others to breathe, telling others just how difficult it was for her to calm down. Yuzhu acted as if she didn't care about anything else and quietly retreated to the side. No one has ever said that only magicians who can kill are mature magicians. Noah and Ayoko looked at each other. After a long while, Noah closed his eyes and said as if he didn't care about her at all. Don't be ashamed of being afraid of killing. It's never wrong to cherish life, no matter if it's yours or the enemy's. After leaving these words, Noah also retreated to Yuzhu's side, leaving the choice in Ayoko's hands. It was obvious that Ayoko and Yuzhu wanted to deal with this foreign magician as the real birth trial of the Ayoko family's magician. Noah, on the other hand, scoffed at this so-called trial. Of course, Noah wouldn't pity the state of the universe and think that killing was wrong. For Noah, killing innocent people was indeed wrong, but for this guy who deserved to die, not killing him was a crime. However, whether to kill or not, at least it was his own decision. Ayoko had an unyielding character and was good at moving forward bravely, but that didn't include forcing herself. Needless to say, letting Ayoko kill was forcing her. It wasn't that Ayoko wouldn't kill. If she really made up her mind, Ayoko would definitely be able to do it. But Ayoko didn't want to kill at all. Doing something against one's will, if that wasn't forcing oneself, then what was? If one had power but couldn't make decisions for oneself, then why did one have power? Just to reach the origin? That didn't make any sense. Noah had extraordinary magic power from the moment he was born. In order to not hurt the people around him, Noah constantly trained his magic power control. Later, he gradually mastered the high-level destruction spell Crush, and made considerable progress in the other two worlds. All of this was to protect the people around him, to protect the worlds that asked him for help. Therefore, Noah felt that it was meaningful for him to become stronger, and that his life was very meaningful. Unlike the magicians of this world who became stronger and had power, but had to force themselves to do things they didn't want to do. If that wasn't meaningless, then what was it? Therefore, although Noah didn't completely reject the magicians of this world, he didn't have a good impression of them. But unlike Noah, a pure magician like Yuju had a completely different opinion. Magicians were destined to go against their morals. Therefore, all human rules and regulations were enemies to magicians. Therefore, when Ayoko was stunned by Noah's words, Yoju's voice slowly sounded. "That's not like you." This sentence made Ayoko finally make up her mind. Yes, hesitation was not like Ayoko at all. No matter what, since she had decided, she had to do it. This was Ayoko. Seeing the determination in Ayoko's eyes, Noah still didn't care and smiled, and turned his head away. At this point, it was Ayoko's problem to choose her own future. After all, Noah was rather impressed by Ayoko's perseverance and willpower. At that moment, Noah closed his eyes, and his sensing ability was fully activated in an instant, covering the largest range with him as the center. The next moment, Noah and Yuju raised their heads at the same time and said in unison, "They're coming." Ayoko's body tensed up. At the same time, in the shadows around the park, black shadows quietly appeared. Click, 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 click. When the mechanical footsteps sounded and became more frequent, not only Ayoko and Yuju, but even Noah was shocked. Click, 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 click. Amidst the increasingly frequent footsteps, the black shadows that resembled giant ants gradually surrounded them and were exposed under the moonlight. They were puppets. The puppets had no adornments on their bodies. Their skin was as cold as steel, and they were like the dolls in the clothing stores. They walked on all fours and surrounded them step by step. From the looks of it, there were at least 30 of these puppets that were surrounding them. In terms of the price of puppets, all of them added up to a sky-high price. Chapter 318. Clack, clack, clack. At some point, the sound of the mannequin's footsteps became more synchronized. Moreover, Noah and Yuju did not know if it was an illusion, but the small number of puppets in front of them, which could be converted into money, seemed to be directly targeting Ayoko. With Ayoko as the target, they surrounded her. Ayoko, who had been so resolute up until now had a dumbfounded look on her face. Even Yuju was slightly surprised. Seeing this, Noah sighed and said in annoyance, "This guy really has too much money. It seems that this foreign magician has so much money that he doesn't know where to spend it. He's throwing expensive automatons to their deaths one by one, and he even has a fantasy breed by his side. Is his target really Sano City?" Noah could not help but have such doubts. If this nouveau riche foreign magician's target was really the spirit vein, he could have directly bought a piece of spirit land from the Magic Association with his wealth. Why would he go through so much trouble to come here and seize Sanyo City? Although Sanyo City also had a spirit vein, it was a small place in the countryside. Those who would set their eyes on this place were usually third-rate magicians. It was really inconceivable that a magician with a fantasy breed and so many expensive dolls would set his eyes on this place. Ayoko obviously thought of this as well. She had a sincere expression of displeasure on her face, but her tone was quite calm. "Yuju." Ayoko Aozaki took a step back without a change in her expression. She stared at the army of dolls surrounding them as she spoke. "Where's Puppeteer himself?" "I'm not sure." Yoju's eyes flickered slightly. There are too many puppets here, and the magic power has been disrupted. It's difficult to detect other magic power individuals. Ayoko clicked her tongue when she heard Yoju's words, while Noah still used his sensing ability to observe the surroundings. Only Noah's sensing ability was not restricted by magic power, and it directly scanned the surrounding environment. At this moment Noah was surprised. Within the range of Noah's sensing ability, an aura appeared at the edge and slowly moved toward them. Noah recognized this aura. It was because he recognized it that Noah was so surprised. Yuju, who noticed Noah's strange expression, looked over with confusion in his eyes. Yuju. Noah directly looked into Yoju's eyes and said, "Did you activate a barrier to repel people?" Yuju raised his eyebrows and did not speak. His black eyes stared at Noah, and a trace of dissatisfaction slowly appeared in his eyes. Although Yuju did not say anything, Noah understood Yoju's meaning. As a pure magician, it was impossible for Yuju not to consider this point, and had long since cast a barrier. In fact, within the range of Noah's sensing ability, he could indeed feel the barrier set up by Yuju. But even so, Noah could not help but be suspicious. "It's not that I doubt your ability." Noah frowned. "It's just that I noticed an ordinary person penetrating your barrier and coming here." "Ordinary person?" Yuju was stunned. "Ordinary person?" Ayoko, who had already activated her magic seal and was ready to attack at any time, also turned her head in surprise as a faint blue light swirled around her arm. Kakaka. Just as Ayoko turned her head around, there was the sound of rapid movement of limbs. Immediately after, the three puppets leapt out from the army of puppets. Like fierce tigers hunting in the night, their bodies suddenly turned in midair and fiercely pounced in Ayoko's direction. Ayoko's expression changed, and almost reflexively raised her arm that was flickering with the light of magic engraving, and faced the incoming puppets. In the vibration of the air, a precise geometric pattern appeared in front of Ayoko's palm and suddenly flashed. Bang 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 bang. Like a turret aimed at the enemy, the blue light that turned into cannonballs burst out from the mysterious spell formation. Carrying a blinding phosphorescence, the cannonballs crossed the space and heavily fell on the attacking puppets. Bang 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 bang. Accompanied by the sound of explosions, blue flames bloomed from the puppets that jumped up and pounced on Ayoko. While stirring up a burst of intense light, the blue flames were like heavy hammers, directly blasting the attacking puppets back into the puppet army. Kakaka. As if receiving a signal, all the hair-raising naked puppets in front of Ayoko shot out like bullets with their limbs stretched, and amidst the mechanical ka-ka sound, they violently attacked Ayoko's direction. The number of the automaton puppet army was at least 30. The maximum number of magic bullets that Ayoko could shoot in a day was about 30, and she couldn't shoot all of them at once. And most she could shoot 4 at a time. Therefore, when the army of puppets swarmed towards her like a swarm of bees, Ayoko only had time to raise her hand, which was covered with a glowing spell formation. She didn't even have time to replenish the number of magic bullets before the army of puppets arrived in front of her. Collect. A voice rang out behind Ayoko, accompanied by a dense phosphorescent light that illuminated every corner of the surroundings. Cast projection. As soon as he said that, the blue phosphorescent light turned into a resplendent beam of light. Like a meteor flashing through the night sky, it brushed past Ayoko's side, causing half of her body to heat up. Her skin turned red from the friction. Then, the meteor-like beam of light swept through the swarming puppet army. Bang! A dazzling light exploded. Whoosh! A strong gust of wind spread. The puppets in the torrent of magic power seemed to be directly vaporized. They suddenly burst into flames and turned into stinking smoke, rising into the air and dissipating with the wind. After a while, the light and wind disappeared at the same time, leaving behind a scorched earth that seemed to have been burned by flames, and scattered on the ground, leaving behind some broken limbs and broken bones of the puppets. That scene was extremely frightening. Whether it was Ayoko or Yuju, both of them looked at Noah with an incredulous expression as he raised his hand in front of him that was flickering with phosphorescence. This was especially true for Ayoko. Recalling the beam of light that had formed a magic bullet that was like a meteor, she looked at Noah as if she had seen a ghost. If she had restrained her magic power and had enough time to chant, Ayoko could have used the magic bullet just now. However, not only did it require the assistance of the magic seal, but it also required the consumption of all the magic power in the body to obtain the magic bullet of that scale. Now this trump card that Ayoko could only use once, not only did Noah casually use it, but he also looked relaxed, as if he didn't consume any magic power at all. This guy, is he really a monster? Don't be in a daze. Noah, who put down his hand, looked at Ayoko and Yoju's stunned expression, and sighed in a deep voice. Even if I make a move, the result is still too late. Saying such a sentence, Noah turned sideways and looked at the entrance of the park. Ayoko and Yuju, who looked at the front through Noah's body, finally saw it. At the entrance of the park, a figure stood there. He was wearing the student uniform of Miyamoto High School, with messy hair, a somewhat thin figure, and a somewhat simple and honest expression. However, that simple and honest face of his was completely dumbfounded at this very moment. The person who came was the recently transferred student of Miyamoto High School, Shizuka Kusanagi. Yoju's pitch-black eyes suddenly focused, and a flame-like magic power rose from his body. Ayoko sucked in a breath of cold air, and immediately understood. The transfer student in front of her, who came from the mountains, saw everything that just happened. As an ordinary person, he witnessed the miracle of a magician. You guys. Shizuka Kusajikuro seemed to be unable to recover from the scene that he saw. Looking at the burning remains of the puppets and the broken limbs on the ground, he couldn't help but take a step back. The whole place was dead silent. Chapter 319. Separated by less than 10 meters, Noah, Ayoko, and Yuju looked at Shizuka Kusanagi, and couldn't say anything for a while. To be precise, it should be said that Noah remained silent and observed the situation. Ayoko and Shizuka Kusanagi were really speechless because of the sudden situation in front of them. The reason why Shizuka Kusanagi couldn't say anything was simple. It was believed that anyone who saw the broken limbs and bones in front of them, the charred marks on the ground, and the scene of the slowly burning puppets that still maintained the shape of a human, would be speechless. It was better to say that if it wasn't because it was too shocking, Shizuka Kusanagi would have run away at this time. The reason why Ayoko couldn't say anything was also very simple. Just because the thing that absolutely couldn't be discovered was not only discovered, but also discovered by her own schoolmate. This made Ayoko somewhat unable to react. Until the cold voice of Yuju, who was closely staring at Shizuka Kusanagi and exuding a terrifying magical aura. The dead silence of the scene was cleanly broken. Ayoko finally recovered. Looking at Shizuka Kusanagi's eyes became cruel. Facing Shizuka Kusanagi, who was still in a daze, the magic seal on Ayoko's arm was smoothly operated to the extreme in the driving sound like an engine, blooming a dazzling phosphorescent light. Under the phosphorescent light, Ayoko's cold face was exposed in front of Shizuka Kusanagi. You have bad luck, Shizuka Kusanagi. Shizuka Kusanagi, who was awakened by the inhuman phenomenon of Ayoko, retreated step by step, and finally, couldn't help but stagger, and ran away like crazy. Ayoko's mouth evoked a smile that was unknown whether it was sincere or hypocritical, stepped forward, and did not hesitate to chase. Looking at this scene, Yuju acted as if nothing had happened and stood there quietly. Noah was the only one who narrowed his eyes as he watched Ayoko disappear around the corner of the park and head toward the main road. Just as he was about to chase after her, an unfamiliar presence appeared within the range of his sensory ability. Noah, who had just taken a step forward, narrowed his eyes. This was because this aura that appeared in the range of her senses not only didn't feel like a living person at all, but it also had a trace of magic power. It was approaching Ayoko at an astonishing speed. Not good. As soon as he finished speaking, "Gotcha!" A sound that sounded like something being split apart rang out from the road outside the park. Bang! A burst of scarlet magic power and a dull collision sound echoed in the air at the same time. Beep beep beep. Scarlet electric sparks blossomed in the air. Ah! Ayoko's painful wail also rushed into the sky. While Yuju was startled, Noah had already rushed out. A pop sound came from his body, and a vigorous power instantly filled his body. At this moment, Noah chose to release all the power under limit. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, Noah's figure turned into an afterimage and rushed out like a gust of wind. When Noah appeared again, he was already at the place where the scarlet electric arcs flashed and Ayoko's sorrowful cry resounded. Then Noah saw it. He saw Ayoko fly into the air like a thrown garbage and fall to the ground. Bang! Noah, who appeared under Ayoko, stretched out his hand and caught the falling Ayoko into his arms. The weight that was added because of the free fall was directly shaken off by Noah's arm. With a bend of Noah's arm, it was completely removed. Ayoko Aozaki's seemingly tall and slender body actually displayed an excessively light weight, which was completely borne by Noah. Ugh! Ayoko, who fell into Noah's arms, was a little pale and let out a muffled groan. Noah, who was holding Ayoko, slowly raised his head. His eyes gradually turned into a cold light, and looked at the front of the road. There, a mechanical cold arm that looked exactly like a human arm, but was split into countless segments and directly extended like a whip. It slowly retracted, and with a kacha-kacha sound it reassembled. The owner of this arm was a puppet. It was very similar to the previous puppet, but its face was almost exactly the same as Ayoko's, and even its hair was the same. Next to the puppet, Shizuka Kusajikuro had fainted, and fell to the ground unconscious. Perhaps in the process of fleeing, Shizuka Kusajikuro directly hit the puppet, and like Ayoko he was attacked by the puppet. Or rather, it was very likely that the controller of this puppet opened a hole in the wizardry barrier, and let Shizuka Kusajikuro in, and attracted the attention of Noah and the others. Shizuka Kusajikuro let Ayoko out, and maybe killed her alone. Thinking of this possibility, Noah's expression also sank. I've been tricked. Kacha-kacha. Not knowing if it heard Noah's voice, the puppet that looked like Ayoko raised its hand mechanically and clumsily, and pointed in the direction of Noah. Whoosh! The next moment, the puppet's arm once again split and stretched out like a whip, like an arrow connected to the fist and countless joints, and in the sharp sound, it shot in the direction of Noah. Unfortunately, if it was against Noah in his normal state, this puppet could still jump a few times. But against Noah, who had released all his power, this was destined to be the last attack in the life of this puppet. Dong! The mechanical arm connected to the fist directly fell on the position where Noah was a second ago, and the ground there was penetrated. Pata! With such a light landing sound, Noah, who was holding Ayoko Aoyagi, seemed to descend from the sky. His toes touched the ground, and he landed on the ground, appearing in front of the puppet. The puppet seemed to be unable to understand the situation in front of it, and tilted its head. Pa! At this moment, Noah stretched out a hand and put it on the puppet's shoulder. Wong! A dazzling white light burst out from Noah's hand, and covered the puppet's entire body. Bang! In the white light, the puppet's body seemed to be evenly cut into pieces. First, it split, and then in a loud explosion it directly shattered, and turned into powder in the air. However, the powder was purple. Ugh! Ayoko, who breathed in a little purple powder, let out a muffled groan. Noah, who was aware of this, revealed a hint of surprise. Poison powder? There was poison hidden in the puppet's body. The magician hiding in the dark not only wanted to trick Ayoko, but he also wanted to trick Noah. This made Noah's face turn ugly. However, Noah's body had 3 major constitutions. One of the 3 major constitutions was to expel all negative forces that affected the body. This included poison. Therefore, even if he was tricked, Noah was still unaffected. Of course, Noah was not affected, but it did not mean that others were not affected. Ugh! Another extremely soft groan was heard. That was the sound of Yuju, who finally arrived at the scene. Noah quickly called out, "Hold your breath. There's poison in the air." Without Noah's reminder, Yuju, who was an expert in fairy-tale-themed curses and pharmacology, accidentally breathed in a part of the poison, immediately held her breath. But Yuju still breathed in some poison. Her face was slightly pale as she sat on the ground, clutching her chest, and looked like she was enduring the pain. In the end, except for Noah, Ayoko and Yuju were all poisoned. Perhaps tonight's operation was a trap. Noah suppressed the surging emotions in his heart, regained his calm, carried Ayoko, and quickly came to Yuju's side, and hugged Yuju in his arms. Yuju, who was in Noah's arms, grabbed Noah's arm and said weakly, "The other fulcrum was just eliminated, this is just a trap." Sure enough, holding Ayoko in one hand and Yuju in the other, Noah looked at Shizuka Kusanagi on the ground in front of him and took a deep breath. Tonight's matter I will remember. Chapter 320. In the pitch-black night, the manor house on the hill lit up, illuminating the surrounding wasteland. After turning on the lights, Noah placed the two girls in his arms on the sofa. Looking at the pale faces of Ayoko and Yuju, he stood up and walked to the middle of the living room. Wang! A dazzling golden light rose from Noah's body, covering the surrounding lights that were abnormally dim in comparison, and filling the entire living room. Under the dazzling golden light, a scabbard quietly appeared. Noah grasped it in his hand and raised it high above his head. Wang! Suddenly, with the golden scabbard as the source, an intense dazzling light soared and covered everything in the living room. Under the dazzling light, Ayoko's pale face gradually improved and regained a bit of color, making her face that was previously filled with pain look a lot more relaxed. The scabbard, named Avalon, originally had an extremely powerful healing ability. As long as it was not a fatal injury, and its owner could provide it with sufficient magic power, then Avalon would definitely be able to completely heal the person's injuries. The only difference was how long it would take. Otherwise, Avalon would not be called a mobile stronghold. Under the healing of Avalon, the wounds on Ayoko's body were negligible, and it didn't take much effort to heal them all. Undoubtedly, it was such a tyrannical treatment, but Ayoko's complexion did not improve after recovering to a certain extent, as if the treatment of Avalon was no longer effective. On the other side, Yoju's pale face, bathed in the light of Avalon, did not improve at all. Her expression was still the same, with a bit of pain. Seeing this scene, Noah was not surprised at all and bitterly smiled. Sure enough, Avalon can only heal injuries and not detoxify poison? This has nothing to do with Avalon. Yuju, who was lying on the sofa, forced herself to make a weak sound. The poison dissolved after entering our body. Without the poison, even if your Avalon could detoxify the poison, it would not be effective. Hearing this, Noah was slightly startled. The light of Avalon in his hand gradually converged and turned into a stream of light, once again entering Noah's body. You said the poison is gone? Coming to the sofa where Yuju was lying, Noah, who was kneeling on one knee, looked at Yoju's still pale face and suspiciously asked, "Since the poison is gone, what's going on with your current situation?" "That is the neurotoxin used to block the magic circuit." The answer to Noah was not from Yuju, but from the sofa on the other side of the sofa, with the same weak but strong voice. Ayoko, who had already woken up, seemed unwilling to let others see her weak appearance. Ignoring her still weak body, she propped herself up and leaned against the back of the sofa as if she had lost the last bit of her strength, laughing bitterly. "Although I don't know what kind of poison it is, I can feel that my magic circuit has been completely blocked. Magic can't flow at all of it is squeezed on the circuit. If this continues, our magic won't be able to flow again, right? Is the magic power blocked?" Noah muttered to himself as he looked at Yuju. "Can it be detoxified? After the poison entered our body, it directly blocked our magic circuit, and then it was digested." Yuju clutched her chest. A rare trace of annoyance appeared in her voice. "There is no poison at all, then don't talk about detoxifying it. Yuju, what should we do?" Ayoko spoke with the same cold tone as before, as if there was nothing wrong with her body. "If this continues, we will be directly eliminated from this battle, right?" Magic was blocked and unable to flow, which meant that Yuju and Ayoko couldn't use magic at all. Even if their strength was slowly recovering, their body was also recovering little by little. If they couldn't use magic, then next, if the magician who tricked them continued to attack the rest of the boundary fulcrum, Ayoko and Yuju wouldn't be able to go out and face the enemy. "Actually treating me like an idiot, I will never forgive that guy. If I don't teach him a lesson, I won't give up." Ayoko said in her own voice. Even if it was slightly weak, it was full of determination. "Moreover, I don't want to be sold by those people in the church." Hatien Church was nominally assisting Ayoko and Yuju. It seemed like this, but in fact, Hatien Church only needed to assist the manager of Sanyo City's spiritual vein, not Ayoko and Yuju. If they found that Ayoko and Yuju had no way to win the battle against the foreign magician, the church would not hesitate to abandon Ayoko and Yuju and start to assist the future manager of the spiritual vein, right? Yuju was naturally aware of this point. After a moment of silence, she raised her pale little face. Now the magic in our body can't flow again because it was blocked too much before, and now it's all squeezed together and can't be activated. Does that mean our magic circuit is in a traffic jam? Ayoko looked at Yuju. What's the solution? Inject magic into the magic circuit. Noah, who had been silent, suddenly said. If it doesn't move, add new power to push it, right? Yuju slowly nodded, making Ayoko's face show an angry expression. We can't use any magic at all now. How can we push the magic circuit? Yuju nodded again, but this time more or less with a little helplessness. On the side, Noah, who was listening to the conversation between Yuju and Ayoko, fell into silence. If one observed carefully, one would find that Noah's face showed hesitation and an extremely awkward and unnatural expression. After Yuju proposed the plan, Noah remembered a book he read in Ayoko's study. That book recorded a method to inject magic into others. However, that method, no matter who thought of it, would hesitate, and Noah was full of awkwardness and hesitation. Ayoko, who inadvertently saw Noah's performance, raised the corner of her eyes and directly said, "Did you think of a way?" Yuju also turned her head and looked at Noah. Under the gaze of the two girls, Noah's expression became more and more awkward, and after a while, he asked with a wry smile, "Do you really want to recover?" "Nonsense." Ayoko gritted her teeth and said, "I must return all the suffering I suffered today to that guy who hides his head and shows his tail. I don't like others to rob me." Yuju continued Ayoko's words and looked at Noah. "No matter who it is." Hearing this, Noah's awkwardness turned into hesitation, and finally, he let out an unprecedentedly long sigh. "This is what you said, don't regret it." After that, Noah stood up and directly sat on the side of Yuju's sofa. He stretched out his hand and gently picked up Yuju, who was lying weakly on the sofa. Then there was no then. Maintaining the posture of holding Yuju, Noah's body was slightly stiff, and the expression on his face kept changing. It was still alternating between awkwardness and hesitation, but more of it was hesitation. There was no way. This method was also a challenge for Noah. After all, Noah didn't even try it. However, when he thought about how he was careless and directly destroyed the puppet, which caused Ayoko and Yuju to be poisoned, Noah's heart became ruthless. "Forget it, if I die then I die." On the other side, Yuju's eyebrows were deeply furrowed, as if she was disgusted by others touching her. But when Yuju wanted to make a sound, what happened next made Yuju unable to make a sound. This was not only a psychological factor but also a physical one. After a moment of hesitation, Noah, who was holding Yuju, directly bent down and blocked Yuju's lips. And the thing that blocked Yuju's lips was Noah's lips. Yuju's black hole-like pupils instantly shrank to the smallest in history. Ayoko stood up in a daze. Chapter 321. Mana was basically energy that could only be maintained within the magician's body. Once it was released to the outside world, it would immediately turn back into life force and spread into the originator. However, a magician's body fluid was extremely easy to contain mana. Even if it left the body and was released to the outside world, it could still be temporarily preserved and maintain mana. Thus, if one could directly drink a magician's body fluid, one could also achieve the goal of replenishing mana. It was said that magicians who were worried about money would even sell their body fluid to the Magic Association in exchange for large amounts of money. Ayoko Aozaki and Yuju both required external magic power to reactivate their magic circuits. As long as Noah could pass his mana to Ayoko and Yuju, the magic circuit of the two girls could be reactivated. Originally, Noah wanted to let Ayoko and Yuju drink his blood to replenish their mana, but after careful consideration, he gave up on that idea. Noah's body was not an ordinary body. Noah's body had 3 extremely special constitutions. In the world of Pitch Black Bullet, blood could affect the body of the cursed child to a certain extent. In this way, Noah was not sure if his blood would have some effect on the magicians of this world. If it was a good effect, then it would be fine. But if it was a bad effect, then it would be too late to say anything. Thus, after a mental struggle, Noah still chose to use his saliva. Ugh! Ugh! Yuju, whose lips were directly covered by Noah, let out a whimper. Her heart, which was not easily disturbed, was completely disrupted by Noah's actions. Especially when she sensed that Noah had pried open her lips and her tongue had been captured by the tongue of this man who was having the most intimate contact with her in history, Yuju started to struggle in a panic. Her slender arms kept pushing Noah's shoulders. And Noah, who had already thrown caution to the wind, did not care about Yuju's struggles. For a penny, for a pound, for a pound, for a pound, he rolled up Yuju's small tongue and fiercely entangled it. Noah did not know that when he was a child, Mira and Lisanna, those two little girls, had already stolen his lips. Thus, in Noah's memory, this was definitely Noah's first kiss. Feeling the soft and small lips pressed against his own, as well as Yuju's panicked tongue continuously attacking him, Noah felt as if he had been electrocuted, and his mind was in chaos. Even Noah, who was good at controlling his emotions, was like this, let alone Yuju. Yuju's heart was already completely occupied by panic. Even her mind was blank. She only subconsciously used her arms to press on Noah's shoulders, while whimpering and pushing. Unfortunately, Yuju's strength was no different from nothing for Noah. Furthermore, Noah didn't forget about the important matter at hand. He forcefully suppressed the agitation in his heart and his longing for those soft lips and tongue, allowing his magic to pass through his lips and into Yuju's body. Ugh! Not long after, Yuju's rapid and weak breathing reverberated in the air, unable to be suppressed, and began to reverberate in the living room. Looking at Noah, who was roughly kissing Yuju in front of her eyes, with her eyes tightly closed, and her strength to struggle became weaker and weaker. Her pale cheeks gradually flushed red. Ayako felt as if someone had knocked her on the head, and she did not recover for a long time. The heavens pity her. On the surface, Ayako looked like a big sister, but she did not even have the experience of holding hands with a boy, let alone kissing or even watching others kiss. What's more, the one being kissed in front of him was not someone else, but a pure-blooded witch, a pure-blooded magician. Hidden in her petite body was a power that made countless magicians exclaim in admiration, Jiyuan Temple Pearls. One could imagine the impact Ayako felt. After an unknown amount of time, Noah and Yuju's lips finally parted. Pung! When Noah subconsciously let go of her hand, Yuju's body directly collapsed onto the sofa. Her black hole-like eyes couldn't help but slacken. She panted rapidly as if she was out of oxygen, and her chest heaved up and down. Huff! Huff! Not to mention Yuju, even Noah was slightly panting. Looking at Yuju, who collapsed on the sofa, his heart beat faster and faster, and his heart was filled with disbelief. He could not believe that he had actually done such a thing. Fortunately, Noah did not forget that he still had another patient. At that moment, Noah turned his head and stared at Ayako with a crazy gaze, as if he was about to jump off a cliff. Ayoko's heart suddenly jumped, and she woke up with a start. Before she had time to question Noah, Ayoko's heart was filled with a strong sense of foreboding. This ominous premonition made Ayako panic like never before. She shouted at Noah, trying to put up a strong front but feeling weak at heart. What do you want to do? Being stared at by Ayoko's vigilant and panicked eyes, Noah's heart could not help but beat like a drum. But since he had even kissed the pure-blooded witch Yuju, what qualifications did this bad-tempered trainee magician in front of him have to make him back out? With this thought in mind, Noah walked over to Ayako and tried to persuade her. It was an expression and posture that showed that he was really going to throw caution to the wind. Who told you to come over? In a panic, Ayako mercilessly threw a punch. However, Ayako had already consumed a lot of physical strength due to her injury and poisoning. Now that her magic circuit was also blocked, her recovery ability was extremely weak. This soft punch did not have any deterrence at all. Pa! Noah stretched out his hand and took Ayoko's soft punch with his palm. Then he turned around and grabbed Ayoko's fist. With a forceful pull, he pulled the flustered Ayoko into his arms. Without giving Ayoko a chance to retaliate, Noah fiercely covered Ayoko's mouth. Ugh! Ugh! Ayoko's depressed and panicked whimper turned into an echo, and together with the sound of alternating lips and tongues, it kept lingering in the entire living room. For a long time it did not stop. When he walked out of the living room, Noah felt that his body was floating. In the living room behind him, the panting of Yuju and Ayoko still did not stop. If someone saw Noah walking out of a room with the panting of a girl in a floating state, they would definitely think that it was a romantic scene. In fact, what Noah had done was much better than what she had imagined. After all, Noah did not take advantage of the situation. Although he was almost captured by the feeling that he had never experienced before, he still controlled it. After transferring enough magical power to Ayoko and Yuju, he immediately stopped what he was doing and left the living room. If he continued to stay there, Noah could not guarantee that Ayoko and Yuju, who had recovered, would not be mad at him. Phew! Noah let out a heavy sigh of relief. Pressing his chest, he smiled embarrassedly. It's not a big deal. That feeling. After saying this sentence, which sounded like he had given up, Noah shook his head, walked into the hall of the mansion, and looked in the direction of the entrance. On the ground of the entrance, a person was lying there. Impressively, it was Shizuka Kusujikuro. While bringing back Aozaki Ayoko and Yuju, Noah also brought back Wild, who was unlucky. He didn't know if it was because she was used by that foreign magician to ignore Yoju's barrier and break into the park. Whether or not he was used, Shizuka Kusujikuro witnessed the scene of the magician using magic, which violated the magician's concealment principle. Perhaps even if Noah let Shizuka Kusujikuro go, Ayoko, Yuju, and even the foreign magician who might have used him would chase after him to kill him. Since that was the case, it was better to bring Shizuka Kusujikuro back and think of a way to solve this problem. Of course, Noah did not think of killing Shizuka Kusujikuro. He still had a good impression of this simple young man. Thinking of this, Noah came in front of Shizuka Kusujikuro, squatted down and patted his back. You were unlucky to break into the park, but you were lucky to have met me. After that, Noah carried Shizuka Kusujikuro on his back and brought him to the second floor to his room. The night passed quietly. Chapter 322. His fuzzy consciousness gradually returned, making Shizuoka Kusunagi's brain, which was not very bright, work smoothly. His whole body was soft and it was difficult to raise his strength. If it was an ordinary person at this time, he was afraid that he could only make his eyelids move, and not move at all. However, for Shizuoka Kusunagi, this level was still bearable. After all, in the mountains where he originally lived, Shizuoka Kusunagi never lacked self-exercise. Regardless of will and strength in terms of control of the body, in theory Shizuoka Kusunagi would not lose to anyone. Therefore, even if there was only a little strength, Shizuoka Kusunagi successfully instilled it into his body. What Shizuoka Kusunagi needed to do was to open his eyes. The originally dark vision became bright as he opened his eyes. What was imprinted in Shizuoka Kusunagi's eyes was an unfamiliar ceiling and room. Before Shizuoka Kusunagi could understand the current situation, a voice sounded from his side and passed into his ears. Are you awake? Hearing this voice, Shizuoka Kusunagi instantly woke up and turned his head reflexively, looking at the source of the voice. What appeared in front of Shizuoka Kusunagi was sitting on an ancient but elegant chair, holding a thick book in his hand, looking at him with a smile. You actually woke up in one night. You're more capable than I thought. Hearing this familiar voice, looking at that familiar face, all the memories that were sleeping in Shizuoka Kusunagi's mind suddenly came back. Even if the brain was not very bright, Shizuoka Kusunagi still had a way to remember simple things. Therefore, Shizuoka Kusunagi remembered that the person in front of him was a student of the same school as him. And along with this memory, everything that had happened last night also returned. In the park where the cold wind was howling, the ground was scorched black as if it had been burned, and there were broken limbs and slowly burning human bodies everywhere. The person in front of him was standing in the middle of that hellish scene. Shizuoka Kusunagi's whole body shook, and suddenly jumped up from the bed. Shizuoka Kusunagi's first reaction was to escape. Wang! However, just as he sat up, a mysterious rune suddenly appeared in front of his chest, blooming with a faint light, illuminating his whole body. The moment this rune appeared, Shizuoka Kusukajuru's body stiffened, and he could no longer move. This made Shizuoka Kusunagi's eyes widen, and for a moment, he lost all reaction. I knew your first reaction would be this. Without any surprise, Noah closed the book in his hand and looked at Shizuoka Kusunagi calmly. You don't have to be afraid. Although your current situation can't make you feel at ease, you're still safe in my sight. So if you want to escape, don't blame me for not warning you. Once you're out of my sight, I won't be so idle as to specially protect you." After saying that, Noah stretched out his hand and snapped his fingers. The rune that appeared in front of Shizuchi Kusakura's chest disappeared like flying ash. Seeing such a miracle, Shizuka Kusakura touched his chest with a strange expression, and then sighed sincerely. So powerful. Hearing this, Noah was startled, and his expression more or less carried some surprise. The rune just now was actually one of the elementary uses of the rune that Noah recently learned. The so-called rune refers to the ancient text that was circulated in ancient Northern Europe. This was a symbol of sacred text, and each text contained a unique power. If they were written with magic, then the power of the text could be awakened. The rune that just froze Shizuka Kusakura was a rune that had a binding effect. It was a rune that could only be used to simply freeze the body of others. The effect on magicians was not very big, because it would be scattered by the magic flowing in the magic circuit. It would be better to say that the rune that Noah learned so far was basically elementary, and most of them were simple runes that did not have much effect on ordinary magicians. It could be regarded as an elementary rune. There was no other way. Although the rune was extensive and profound, Ayoko's study room had elementary magic. If Noah wanted to learn advanced rune, then he would have to find another way. However, this elementary rune was already very magical for ordinary people, and it was enough to make ordinary people stunned. But although Shizuka Kusakura's face was filled with emotion and surprise, there was no shock at all. This made Noah curious. Immediately, Noah directly asked, "Aren't you afraid?" "Afraid?" Shizuka Kusakura was puzzled from the bottom of his heart. Why? Noah laughed. Just as he was about to explain, he suddenly remembered Shizuka Kusakura's background. Shizuka Kusakura grew up in the mountains, and there was no electricity in his previous life. He was very surprised when he saw the school. This made Itamaru, who was in the same class as Noah, feel more than once that life was unimaginable. Then for Shizuka Kusakura, life in the city was also unimaginable, right? The life of a magician was even more so, wasn't it? Then for Shizuka Kusakura, what was magic? I say Shizuka Kusakura. Noah had a guess. Don't tell me you think that the people in the city can suddenly bind your body and make you unable to move? Shizuka Kusakura was stunned. Isn't that so? This time Noah understood, and he did not know whether to laugh or cry. Forget it, it is very troublesome to explain it to you, so I will let the owner of this mansion explain it to you. With that, Noah stood up, picked up the book and turned around. Follow me. When Noah came to the living room, Ayoko Aozaki and Yuju seemed to have just finished their breakfast and were sitting on the sofa in the living room, sipping black tea. As soon as Noah entered the living room, Ayoko Aozaki and Yuju's eyes were fixed on him. Noah could clearly see the emotions in Ayoko Aozaki and Yuju's beautiful eyes. Ayoko Aozaki's eyes first had a touch of shame, and then it was all replaced by anger. Yuju was indifferent, and there was only indifference from beginning to end. Being stared at by those resentful and indifferent eyes, even Noah couldn't help but rub his nose uncomfortably and look away awkwardly. So what if she was a magician? Being forcefully kissed by the opposite sex, except for those magicians who were really mentally and morally abnormal, as long as she was a woman she would care, right? Although in his heart he told himself that it was only detoxification, Noah could not remain calm and immediately wanted to turn around and run. Fortunately, Noah's face was not that thin. Under the gaze of the two girls, he shrugged and asked as if nothing had happened. Your magic power should have recovered, right? Hearing this, Yoju's eyes became even colder, and Ayoko Aozaki's eyes twitched. After taking a deep breath, she revealed a sweet smile. You still dare to ask? In other words, in your hearts you are still unsatisfied? Noah pretended to be helpless and said, Before that, I asked you if you really wanted to recover. I also told you not to regret it. Anyway, you didn't want to fall in love. Instead of being an old virgin for the rest of your life, why don't you let me, your temporary cohabitant, take advantage of you? This time, not to mention Ayoko Aozaki, even Yoju's eyes showed a trace of anger. Of course, the two girls did not know that Noah himself was deliberately making fun of them to hide his inner feelings. After all, that was the first kiss in Noah's memory, wasn't it? Facing Ayako Aozaki and Yoju's murderous gaze, Noah's face was calm. In addition, even if you have any thoughts now, you should wait until later. Now it's not too late to solve the problem in front of you. After saying this, Noah turned around. Behind Noah, outside the living room, Shizuchi Kusanagi and Yuju entered the vision of Ayako Aozaki and Yuju. Seeing Shizuchi Kusanagi standing outside the door, Ayako Aozaki and Yuju were stunned for a moment. After they reacted, their expression suddenly became serious. Chapter 323. In the living room, an oppressive silence began to fill the air. Ouchie! On the other hand, Shizuka Kusajikuro seemed to have just noticed Ayako and greeted her. Why are you here? Looking at Shizuakairo's sincere and honest smile, Ouchie Ayako really wanted to ask him what his brain was made of. Undoubtedly, he ran away in front of everyone last night, but now he acted as if nothing had happened. Ouchie Ayako really couldn't guess what Shizuakairo was thinking. At this time, Yuju directly got up from the sofa and didn't pay attention to Shizuakairo. Instead, she stared at Noah. In her dark eyes, there was a strong fluctuation that even when Noah kissed her. In the next moment, Yoju's slightly angry and low voice faintly sounded. Why did you bring people into my house without permission? Hearing this sentence, Shizuka Kusajikuro was completely confused, while Ayako Aozaki cast the same questioning gaze at Noah. Regardless of the problem with Shizuakairo, Noah bringing outsiders into Yoju's mansion seemed simple, but for Yuju, this could develop into an absolutely unforgivable thing. No matter what, this mansion was Yoju's most precious existence, and it was left behind by Yoju's deceased father. Noah naturally understood this point, and the little bit of awkwardness in his heart toward Yuju disappeared. He returned to his usual calmness and looked at Yoju's eyes that contained strong emotions. You didn't say that I can't bring people in, right? Yuju didn't speak and didn't move her eyes away. She closely stared at Noah, making the surrounding atmosphere seem oppressive. Okay, Yuju, now is not the time to ask who is right and who is wrong. Noah is right, you really didn't say that you can't bring people in. Ouchie Ayako, who couldn't stand this oppressive atmosphere, chose to be the intermediary. Moreover, before today, Noah has never brought outsiders in. Today, he brought people that we need to deal with. Isn't it better not to pursue this matter in this place? Yuju still didn't speak, but the strong fluctuation in her eyes slowly calmed down. She glanced at Shizuakairo, who was at a loss, and the coldness in her eyes almost froze people, making Shizuakairo couldn't help but take a step back. It seemed that Yoju's helplessness and anger toward Noah were all transferred to Shizuakairo. After Yuju sat down, Ouchie Ayako also calmed down, stood up, and stared at Shizuakairo as if she wanted to see through him. That's good too. It saves me the trouble of finding you and getting rid of you. Find me? Shizuka Kusajikuro didn't seem to understand the meaning of Ayoko's words, but he could feel the oppressive atmosphere from Ayoko's body, and the air around her that made it hard for him to breathe. Things were a bit bad. As you can see, Shizuakairo. On the side, Noah made his calm voice at the right time. The two people here want to kill you. Kill. Shizuakairo finally understood what was wrong, and he stepped back again and again. Compared to Shizuakairo, Ouchie Ayako seemed to want to step forward step by step, and the momentum on her body and the expression on her face became more and more intense. Although he didn't know what was going on, his intuition told him that the situation was very bad. Suppressing the subconscious impulse to escape, Shizuakairo moved toward the direction of Noah. Seeing this scene, Noah couldn't help but laugh. Ayako Aozaki even stopped and looked straight at Shizuka Kusanagi. You don't want to escape? Shizuakairo shook his head and said so. I want to escape, but I don't think I can escape from you. Is that so? Ouchie Ayako smiled happily, but there was no smile in her eyes. You mean you want to die? I don't want to die yet, Shizuakairo said in a very sincere tone. So, I can only listen to Noah and let him protect me. Noah? Protect you? Ouchie Ayako looked at Noah, and when she found that Noah didn't refute, her face sank. Sitting on the sofa, Yuju, who originally wanted to stay out of this, raised her head and looked at Noah. You want to protect him? At least, I don't want him to die. Noah's expression didn't change, and he said indifferently, Don't apply your magician's rules to me. I'm not a magician. Didn't you already learn magic? Then you can be considered a magician, right? Aochi Aoko's expression gradually became unfriendly. Do you want to attract the Magic Association's crusade? The essence of magic was to hide, and any magician had to hide the mystery of magic. If this sentence was originally a duty, then the existence of the Magic Association turned this duty into a real law. If any magician exposed the mystery of magic and didn't deal with the aftermath, then for the sake of the entire magician community, the Magic Association would definitely send people to suppress them. At least on the surface, the Magic Association made this rule. And previously, it was said that the more people knew about magic, the less mysterious it would become. Therefore, even if the Magic Association was excluded, for the sake of the inheritance of magic as a magician, Aochi Aoko and Yuju wouldn't allow Noa to protect Shizuo Kairo. Unless Noa wanted to start a war with Aochi Aoko and Yuju. I said, I'm not a magician, at least I won't become the kind of magician you want me to be. Noa's dark eyes swept across Aochi Aoko and Yuju. If the Magic Association crusade against me, then I will treat it as an enemy and eliminate it. Aochi Aoko and Yuju's expression showed a trace of shock for a moment. Eliminate? Eliminate the Magic Association? Does this mean that he wants to become an enemy of all magicians in the world of magicians? Is this person stupid? Are you serious? Aochi Aoko pointed at Shizuo Kairo with a face full of disbelief. You want to become an enemy of all magicians for this irrelevant guy? I only do what I like. Noa curled his lips and smiled. It has nothing to do with benefits, it's just a good or bad mood. Anyway, I don't hate Shizuo Kairo classmate, so it's not a big deal to help her. Aochi Aoko was speechless, and Yuju, who had been watching Noa, also had a dark look in her eyes. So, you want to become an enemy of us for this guy? Not to that extent. Noa crossed his arms, first looked at Aochi Aoko, then at Yuju. I remember that there is a library in the mansion, right? Yuju's beautiful eyebrows slowly tightened. What do you want to do? Aren't you worried that the existence of magic will be leaked from this guy's mouth? Noa turned his head and looked at Shizuka Kuzukajuru, who was at a loss for words, and sighed. Then if I erase all his memories from last night until today, then there should be no problem, right? Erase his memories. Aochi Aoko and Yuju suddenly looked at each other and pondered. Shizuo Kairo also looked at Noa with some surprise, but in exchange, he only got a glare from Noa. If you don't erase his memories, he will die, and I can't protect you forever. Shizuo Kairo classmate, I believe that you know which choice is better. This time, Shizuo Kairo obediently closed his mouth and didn't say anything. I've been learning runa recently, and I've already learned all the basic runa in the president's study. Noa looked at Yuju. There should be more advanced runa in the library, right? There should also be forgetting runa in the advanced runa, right? Yuju was silent. After a while, Yuju stood up from the sofa and walked outside. Aochi Aoko, who was familiar with Yuju, understood. Yuju compromised. To be able to force Yuju to this extent, you're pretty good. Aochi Aoko sighed and narrowed her eyes. But, have you thought about how to deal with this guy before you learn forgetting runa? Deal with him however you want. Noa ruthlessly threw out this sentence. I believe that the student union president will take care of this matter. After saying this, Noa walked out of the living room without looking back. You want me to clean up your mess? A second later, an angry roar echoed throughout the mansion. Chapter 324. In the side hall of the QNG mansion, there was a library that Aoko called the Devil's Den. It was a legacy of magic left behind by Yoju's mother. If the mansion was a treasure left behind by Yoju's father, then the library was a treasure left behind by Yoju's mother. Just like the mansion, Yuju treasured the library very much. Even Aoko didn't have many opportunities to enter it. Now, the library had finally welcomed the third guest of the mansion. Under Yoju's guidance, Noa came to the side hall of the QNG mansion and entered the library. This was a library that was extremely shocking in all aspects. It was divided into 2 levels. The upper level was directly connected to the entrance of the side hall, while the lower level was like a basement. It was under a staircase at the front corner, occupying a very large area. Of course, this was nothing. What really shocked people was the scale of the collection. The bookshelves, which were comparable to the size of a building, were arranged neatly like a small mountain. The bookshelves were divided into 2 levels. The upper level was surrounded by corridors for people to walk through, as well as wooden railings. The lower level was built with 2 wooden ladders that were directly welded to the entrance of the corridor on the upper level. It looked more luxurious and elegant than ordinary buildings. On the extremely luxurious and tall bookshelves, books that looked old were neatly arranged on them. Based on this scale, the number of books here must be at least 10,000, as the most basic unit of calculation to give a specific number. Looking at the scale of the library in front of him, Noah, who had the idea of reading all the books in the library, was stunned. Perhaps because she noticed that Noah stopped. Yuju, who was leading the way in front, stopped and turned around. Perhaps because Noah asked her to bring him to this place that the girl cherished very much. Yuju's emotionless eyes revealed a hint of dissatisfaction. Unfortunately, Noah was already shocked by the number of books in front of him and didn't notice it at all. All the books here recorded magic? Seeing the shock and admiration in Noah's eyes, the dissatisfaction in Yuju's heart gradually dissipated. She was like a child whose favorite toy was praised and envied. Less than 10% of the books recorded magic. Yuju said faintly. The rest of the books recorded magic theories and related knowledge of the magic world. That's still very impressive. Noah sighed from the bottom of his heart. I thought my family's library was big enough. This place is not bad. Your family? Yuju looked at him inquisitively. Your family also has a library? Yes. Noah couldn't help but recall the huge library in the guild and smiled bitterly. So, I only went there once when I was a child. Yuju nodded silently, turned into a bookshelf, leaving such a sentence. There are a lot of books that record Rooney's magic here, but I can't remember where they are. You can find them yourself. After saying that, Yuju disappeared from the other end of the bookshelf, leaving Noah behind and disappearing without a trace. Seeing this, Noah once again looked around the magnificent library in front of him and sighed. It seems that it is impossible for me to read all the books here. Even if I only read about magic, it would be difficult. However, if he thought about it carefully, it wasn't strange. Magic has been passed down in this world for who knows how many years. There are rare magic left over from ancient times. There were extinct magic spells that were found in famous ruins. There were secret magic spells inherited from outstanding magicians. There are traditional magic that has been guiding magicians since ancient times. The number of these magic tricks is as endless as human knowledge. It can't be counted with numbers. Therefore, it was not surprising that the number of magic spells recorded in this library was frighteningly high. Noah believed that in the headquarters of the Magic Association, there must be an even more amazing library with a larger collection of books. If Noah wanted to read all the magic tricks in this world, it was absolutely impossible. No wonder Sir Guild Leader called this place the Demon's Den, Noah muttered helplessly. Be realistic. Just remember some useful magic tricks. Although he said so, Noah still had a little ambition. Even if he couldn't read all the magic books here, at least he had to read all the books on magic. Different from the simple enhancement magic, the Rooney magic was truly extensive and profound. Not only did each word represent a kind of power, but the words could also be combined with each other, allowing the power of the words to combine with each other and display new effects. There was once a famous magician in the Magic Association who said such a sentence. If someone learns all of it, then she has mastered all the mysteries of this world. The original meaning of this sentence was, if someone learns all of Magic Rune, then that person can use all the miracles in this world. Just like English letters can be taken out by themselves, and can also be combined to form English letters, and finally become a language. Isn't this broad and profound? Therefore, Magic Rune is even listed as a magic system in the magic world. Even if you learn all of the rune script, there are thousands of ways to combine them, simply innumerable. Of course, learning it is one thing, but being able to use it is another. After all, combining rune is not as simple as just putting them together. The stronger the effect of rune combined, the higher the magic attainment needed to learn it, and the more magic power needed to use it, the more magic power needed to use it. Noah doesn't have extravagant hopes of learning all the magic in this world. But only rune. If possible, Noah hopes to learn all of it. That doesn't only refer to rune script, but also the various ways to combine rune, which is the entire rune magic system. When he thought of the large number of books on rune magic in this library, Noah's heart was excited. Okay, let's begin. With this sentence as the end, Noah got into the tall bookshelf and began a long time of reading. Today is not a holiday. Whether it is Noah, Ayako Aozaki, Yuju, or Shizuka Kusujuru, they all need to go to school. However, because of the poisoning incident last night, the magic circuit in Ayako Aozaki and Yoju's bodies has just recovered to the extent that they can be activated. It will take about 2 to 3 days for their magic power to completely flow smoothly and reach its peak state. Therefore, Ayako Aozaki and Yuju chose to take a leave of absence at the same time and stay in the manor house to recover. They strive to recover their combat power as soon as possible and throw themselves into the enemy. This time, the enemy not only has the wealth to squander a large number of expensive automatons, but also has enough strategy. Otherwise, they wouldn't have tricked Noah and the others and poisoned Ayako Aozaki and Yuju. In addition, there is the existence of a fantasy breed behind the enemy, so Ayako Aozaki and Yuju dare not be careless. Not only did they take a leave of absence to recover their magic power, but they also asked Noah to take a leave of absence. The Kyuenji residence is the end of the spirit vein in Sanyo City, so it can bring a lot of support to Ayako Aozaki and Yuju. Therefore, generally speaking, the enemy should not be able to break into such a base camp that can increase the manager's power. However, the enemy this time is different from the previous third-rate magicians. It is unknown if they will plot some tricks, but it is very likely that they will break into the manor house and choose to kill Ayako Aozaki and Yuju. Given Ayako Aozaki and Yoju's current state, even with the increase, there is no guarantee that they can defeat the enemy. It is more likely that they will be killed. In this way, Noah's guard is necessary. Noah's mission was originally only to deal with fantasy breeds, and protecting the two girls is not included in it. However, Yuju used the library as a reason to ask Noah to protect them, so Noah has no excuse to refuse. It was not until evening that Noah, who had read until now, returned to the living room of the manor house. However, when Noah returned to the living room, he saw Ayako Aozaki and Shizuka Kusukajuru, who are fiercely arguing about something. He was stunned on the spot. Chapter 325. In the brightly lit living room, Ayako and Shizuku Kusanagi were facing each other across the table. Although it was a confrontation, it looked like Ayako was angry, while Shizuku Kusanagi was calm. It was easy to guess who had the upper hand. Do you know what kind of situation you're in right now? Ayako said with a helpless look on her face as if she was about to burst into tears. Do you really think no one will kill you? I don't think so. Shizuku Kusanagi shook his head. I know I'm in danger. You know you're in danger right now. Ayako gritted her teeth as she yelled out. Then tell me, what did you just say? I want to go out. Shizuku Kusanagi answered obediently and looked at Ayako with a puzzled expression. Is there a problem? I want to ask you why you think there is no problem. Ayako helplessly held her forehead, and then with a fierce face, she unceremoniously shouted at Shizuka Kusukajuru. Don't forget that you know our secret now. In order to prevent you from revealing our secret, we can kill you at any time. The only reason we haven't killed you now is that Noah protected you. How dare you ask for a yard after we give you an inch? Or do you want to go out? I know you will watch me. Shizuku Kusanagi seemed to be very distressed. But is there really no room for discussion? I promise I won't tell anyone. Who will believe you? Ayako almost flipped the table. Do you realize what kind of status you have now? You're not here as a guest. You're caught. You're a prisoner. Caught. Shizuku Kusanagi was shocked. Didn't you save me? Ayoko's head hit the table in front of her with a bang, and she didn't get up for a long time. Looking at Ayako like this, Shizuka Kusujuro hesitated for a moment and chose to speak. Ayako, don't you feel pain? Ayako didn't want to speak. Ayako. Shizuka Kusanagi didn't seem to notice Ayoko's mood and asked, Are you angry? Ayako clenched her fists and trembled all over. On the other hand, Shizuka Kusujikuro continued to issue a challenge to the demon who was emitting do-chi. Can I go out now? Ayako suddenly raised her head and rolled up her sleeves without a care for her image. Just like a big sister who was about to fight, The magic mark on her arm blossomed with a dazzling phosphorescent light. Enough! I'll just kill you right away. Wait! Shizuku Kusajikuro retreated and exclaimed. I just want to go out. Noah, who was standing at the door of the living room, didn't even have the heart to complain. Just as he was about to speak, a cold voice sounded from behind Noah. What are you arguing about? The entire place fell silent. Yuju, who was holding a book in her hand, walked in step by step from outside. She directly passed by Noah's side and came into the living room. Her black eyes were directly nailed on Shizuku Kusajikuro, and there was a trace of murderous intent in her eyes. Obviously, Yuju really wanted to kill Shizuku Kusajikuro. Under Yuju's murderous gaze, Shizuku Kusajikuro closed his mouth and didn't speak anymore. Originally, when Shizuku Kusajikuro entered the mansion, Yuju was very unhappy. Now Shizuku Kusajikuro made the entire mansion into a mess. If it wasn't for Noah's presence, even with Noah's guarantee, Yuju would have chosen to attack. Perhaps Shizuku Kusajikuro felt that he was in danger, so he closed his mouth? As for why he attracted such danger, poor Shizuku Kusajikuro couldn't figure it out. Noah, who felt a little funny, stepped forward and stood side by side with Yuju, and asked Shizuku Kusajikuro, "What do you want to do outside?" Seeing Noah's appearance, Shizuku Kusajikuro finally let out a sigh of relief and smiled. However, Shizuku Kusajikuro's words made Noah, Ayoko Aozaki, and Yuju speechless at the same time. I want to work outside. Work outside. Ayoko Aozaki's eyes twitched, and Yuju raised her eyebrows. Even Noah was stunned. Work outside. In this situation where his life was in danger and he didn't even know if he would die in the next second, Shizuku Kusajikuro actually wanted to work outside? Did this wild child know that Ayoko Aozaki and Yuju wanted to kill him because they were afraid that he would talk nonsense outside? He still wanted to go outside? And to work outside? I have to say, I underestimated your courage and overestimated your brain capacity. Noah rolled his eyes. Shizuku Kusajikuro, is working outside more important than your life? It was such an obvious question, but in the end, Shizuku Kusajikuro seriously thought about it and immediately gave such an answer. Both are important. Huh. Everyone was stunned. Although my life is important, if I don't work I can't earn money. Shizuku Kusajikuro felt dissatisfied from the bottom of his heart. Money is a very convenient thing, you can buy anything, but without money you can't get anything, not even food. If I can't earn money, even if you don't kill me, I will starve to death. Hearing this, Noah and Ayoko Aozaki remembered. This transfer student from the mountains in front of them didn't have parents or relatives to rely on. In Sano City, Shizuku Kusajikuro could only rely on himself. If Shizuku Kusajikuro didn't support himself, then he would indeed die. However, after Shizuku Kusajikuro said this, Noah also remembered. I almost forgot that I still have a job as a tutor. Such an untimely sentence made Yuju dissatisfied and stared at Noah. You have to protect our safety. I know, I will call and ask for leave later. Noah said regretfully. If I don't go this time, I will lose a full 100,000 yen. 100,000 yen. Shizuku Kusajikuro's mouth directly opened into an O shape. Not to mention Shizuku Kusajikuro, even Yuju covered her mouth, and Ayoko Aozaki was stunned. Your tutor's salary is so high? I teach homework and piano together, and the target is 2 or 3. Noah didn't know what kind of shocking fact he said and said to himself, that family is quite rich, so they can earn about 30,000 yen in an hour. 30,000 yen an hour? Ayoko Aozaki and Yuju looked at each other. 30,000 yen? Shizuku Kusajikuro looked at Noah with eyes full of admiration. I work 3 jobs a day and I only get 70,000 yen a month. That's not strange after all, your duty is to be a student, and you have to spend 3/4 of your time on learning, so it's not strange that you don't earn much. Saying such a sentence, Noah frowned. I can't go to tutor recently, didn't I lose hundreds of thousands all of a sudden? Hearing this, Ayoko Aozaki felt sorry for Noah, and even Yuju turned her head away as if she had sinned. After all, it was these 2 girls who made Noah lose so much money. On the contrary, Noah just frowned but didn't feel sorry at all. He came in front of Shizuku Kusajikuro and stretched out his hand. Under the limited state, a little bit of magical power was released and gathered in Noah's finger. making Noah's finger emit light. Then, Noah moved his finger on Shizuku Kusajukuro's chest, and wrote a rune. That a glowing rune immediately emerged from Shizuku Kusajukuro's chest, and then disappeared into Shizuku Kusajukuro's body. This is the burning runa. Noah showed Shizuku Kusajikuro a smile that made him tremble with fear. Shizuku classmate, don't talk about magic in us outside, otherwise, it will burn and turn you into a piece of charcoal. Shizuku Kusajikuro tightly pursed his lips, and his head repeatedly nodded, indicating that he understood. It's good that you understand. Noah came in front of the sofa and sat down. Then you can go out. Remember to come back before 10 o'clock, or it will still burn. Okay. Shizuku Kusajikuro, with a depressed expression, walked out of the living room. On the side, Yuju stared at Shizuku Kusajikuro's back, her eyes full of displeasure, as if she was against letting Shizuku Kusajikuro come back. Noah shook his head with a smile. Really, just like a child. Chapter 326. Not long after Shizuoka Kusanagi left the living room, the sound of the door opening and closing could be heard from the front entrance. After Shizuoka Kusanagi left the mansion, Yuju retracted her gaze from outside the living room and turned around. Her eyes were still full of dissatisfaction. Do you want him to stay here until you learn how to forget like nuns? Along with this sentence was Yuju's resistance that everyone could feel. Looking at the cold light flashing in Yuju's dark eyes, Noah knew that if Shizuoka Kusanagi really came back to the mansion and stayed here, Yuju would definitely go crazy. Even if she started a war with Noah, Yuju would still go crazy. Because this was Yuju's bottom line. I also object to letting that guy stay here. As a temporary cohabitant, Ayoko strongly expressed her own opinion. I'm afraid I won't be able to live with that kind of guy. Without a doubt, both cohabitants insisted on not letting Shizuoka Kusanagi stay in the mansion. In any case, you've planted a burning nun in that guy's body that will activate when the conditions are met. Let him leave this place. If Ayoko's previous speech was based on her personal feelings, then her current speech was based on her thoughts on the overall situation. We still need to deal with external enemies, and the enemy could break into the mansion at any time. Let that guy stay here. Let's not talk about whether Yuju will agree or not. Do we still need to protect him when facing the enemy? Yuju didn't say anything, but everyone knew what Yuju was thinking. Seeing this, Noah slightly sighed. I say, after witnessing the enemy's resourcefulness this time, don't tell me you really didn't consider anything? Ayoko and Yuju were both stunned. Don't forget, last night, Shizuoka Kusanagi directly ignored Yuju's barrier and broke into the mansion. Noah suddenly said. At first, I thought that Shizuoka Kusanagi was used by the magician behind the scenes to lure Ayoko away. But after that I thought, is it possible that Shizuoka Kusanagi knew the whole truth from the beginning? After hearing Noah's words, Ayoko and Yuju both woke up. The dissatisfaction in Yuju's eyes disappeared and was replaced by a solemn expression. You mean Shizuoka Kusanagi is very likely to cooperate with the foreign magician to plot against us, instead of being used? I can only say that this possibility can't be ruled out. Noah shrugged. Thus, I protected him and allowed him to stay here not only because I felt that this guy was innocent and wanted to help him, but also because I felt that this guy had been putting on an act the entire time. I wanted to control him here and observe him while I was at it. Really? Ayoko Aozaki asked doubtfully. Can that guy really do such a thing? Shizuoka Kusanagi looked like a fool. No one would think that he was a scheming person. I also think that he's just being used, but you can't judge a book by its cover. Maybe we're still in the enemy's trap? Noah sneered. After what happened last night, I don't want to be tricked again. Ayoko and Yuju both nodded and agreed with Noah's idea. Then it's better to just kill him. Yuju took the opportunity to make a suggestion. Not only is he a witness to the magic, but he could also be the enemy's companion. We should kill him. He's just an ordinary person. Even if he's a collaborator, how important can he be? Noah shook his head and said. On the contrary, if Shizuoka Kusanagi is really the enemy's collaborator, and the magician behind the scenes knows that we let him stay in the mansion, that magician will definitely pay more attention to this collaborator and let Shizuoka Kusanagi stay in the mansion. Then we can turn the tables and use him. After saying that, Noah looked at Yuju. He didn't know if it was because he had intimate contact with Yuju, but his tone became gentler. He was no longer as strong as before, and he spoke as if he was coaxing Yuju. I know that you value the mansion, but this is a special time. Just bear with it, okay? Yoju's expression became a little uncertain. She didn't know how to respond to Noah's gentle tone. After a while, she turned her head away. I'll try my best. Only then did Noah smile with satisfaction. Humph. Ayoko, who saw this scene, snorted inexplicably. She narrowed her eyes and looked at Noah. In other words, you've actually planned everything, right? You can say that. Noah spread his hands and said to Ayoko, with Yoju's familiar here, and this is Yoju's territory, it's easy to monitor Shizuoka Kusanagi. As long as there's something wrong with him, we can make a plan. If there's no problem, I'll make him forget everything here and return to the world of ordinary people. Since you've already considered this, what about the foreign magicians? Ayoko Aozaki asked with a serious expression. Have you also thought of a plan to deal with him? Noah exchanged glances with Ayoko and Yuju. Under the gazes of the two girls, he nodded. There's a basic plan. Ayoko Aochi and Yoju's spirits were shaken, and they became serious. As you said before, this foreign magician has already eliminated a fulcrum of the enchantment. In addition to the fulcrum from last night, 2 of the 5 fulcrum points of Sanyo City's enchantment have been eliminated. Now there are only 3 left. Noah suddenly made such a suggestion. I hope that you can directly eliminate 2 of the 3 fulcrum points in Sanyo City, leaving only 1. Take the initiative to eliminate 2 of the fulcrum points. Ayoko and Yuju were surprised at the same time. What kind of suggestion is this? Leaving those 2 fulcrum points is not beneficial to us at all. Noah explained aloud. Just like last night, the opponent can continue to play tricks and lead us to 1 fulcrum point, while they eliminate the other fulcrum point. This is the first disadvantage. Even if there's a lesson from last night, if the enemy continues to appear, we won't be able to gather in one place to face the enemy. We will have to be separated, and 3 fulcrum points are 3 places. If the 3 of us all go out, each of us will guard 1 place, and the enemy can break through 1 by 1. Plus, your magic power hasn't completely recovered, so the enemy can succeed at any time. If something goes wrong, then you and the fulcrum points will be wiped out together. This is the second disadvantage. And if we take the initiative to eliminate 2 of the 3 fulcrum points, then the benefits will be ours. With a calm tone, Noah analyzed bit by bit. First, the enemy is a resourceful person. If they notice that we have taken the initiative to eliminate 2 of the fulcrum points, they will definitely have some scruples. They will be worried that we will ambush them or set up some traps, so they won't dare to act boldly. This means that you can fight for time to recover. Second, because there is only 1 fulcrum point left, even if the enemy attacks the fulcrum point, we can gather our strength to deal with them. We won't have to worry about falling into a trap. Thirdly, the ambush and traps mentioned earlier were not just empty words. We will set up layers of traps at the last fulcrum. If the other party really wants to obtain the spirit vein of Sanyi City, they will definitely make a move. At that time we will be calm and unruffled. We will wait for the other party to come and take the initiative to let the other party have a taste of our arrangements. After revealing all his thoughts in one breath, Noah smiled. Since there are only benefits and no disadvantages, then what's the point of leaving those 2 fulcrum points? Ayoko and Yuju were dumbfounded as they listened to Noah's analysis one by one. They couldn't believe that Noah suddenly became so smart. Ayoko and Yuju didn't know that in the world of the Dark Bullet, the political game with the Tintong Chrysanthemum Prime Minister for more than a year had already made Noah's methods and vision change. If it wasn't because the world of absolute dual blades did not have as much pressure as the world of the Dark Bullet, and because he lived the life of an ordinary high school student after coming to this world, which made Noah a little relaxed, Noah wouldn't have been so easily tricked by the enemy last night. Now, after being stimulated by the enemy, Noah's methods and vision naturally returned. Thinking of what happened last night, the corner of Noah's mouth slowly rose. The good show has just begun. Chapter 327. No matter how fiercely the magicians in Sanyi City were fighting over the spirit vein, the surface world of Sanyi City was still as peaceful as before. However, those who had the identities of the outer and inner worlds would definitely be able to discover that 4 of the 5 fulcrum points of Sanliang City's spirit vein barrier had all disappeared. Yes, 4 of the 5 fulcrums had already been eliminated. In addition to the 2 fulcrums that were eliminated by the magician hiding in the dark, Ayako and Yuju worked through the night and eliminated 2 of the remaining 3 fulcrums of the spirit vein barrier. Evidently, after the previous discussion, Ayako and Yuju both adopted Noah's plan to deal with the enemy, even though they didn't say anything on the surface. This more or less made Noah feel gratified. What did this mean? It meant that Ayako and Yuju both believed in Noah. At least, after making a choice, the 2 girls chose to believe in Noah. After all, if Noah didn't stand on the same side as Ayako and Yuju in the end, eliminating 2 fulcrums was equivalent to helping the enemy destroy the spirit vein barrier of Sanyo City. The spirit vein barrier of Sanyo City was established by Ayoko's grandfather, the former 5th magician. If one wanted to destroy the spirit vein barrier of Sanyo City, unless one's ability far surpassed Ayoko's grandfather, it would take a long time to destroy it. Ayako and Yuju were the managers of the spirit vein in Sanyo City, and had the right to control the spirit vein. If they wanted to eliminate the fulcrums of the spirit vein, it would take a lot of effort. Therefore, if they didn't choose to believe in Noah, Ayako and Yuju wouldn't have taken the initiative to eliminate the fulcrums of the spirit vein barrier. After Ayako and Yuju took the initiative to eliminate the fulcrums of the spirit vein barrier, the following period of time was indeed quite peaceful. Obviously, the magician hiding in the dark also felt that it was inconceivable that Ayako and Yuju would take the initiative to eliminate the fulcrums of the spirit vein barrier, and didn't dare to act rashly. Currently, Ayako Aozaki and Yuju had already set up many traps at the last fulcrum of Sanyi City's spirit vein barrier. Yuju had even placed the 6-song chocolate at the last fulcrum and patrolled it every day. As long as the magician hiding in the dark left a trace on the last fulcrum, Noah and the others who were on standby in the mansion would immediately discover it. In other words, apart from using the spirit vein barrier to monitor the entire Sanyo City, the only thing left to do was to wait. During this period of time, Noah would go to the library of the Kuonji mansion every day and find all the books related to strengthening magic and runi magic in the library, absorbing the magic knowledge of this world like a sponge. Ayako and Yuju also needed to monitor the movement of the spirit vein in Sanyo City and communicate with the person in charge of the Hachian Church regularly, so they were a lot busier than Noah. It was worth mentioning that Shizuka Kusujikuro also moved into the Kuonji mansion under various threats and promises. Yuju was dissatisfied with this, but because of Noah's previous advice and suggestions, she was no longer as resistant as before. However, she would send a messenger bird to monitor Shizuka Kusujikuro every day, and didn't give Shizuka Kusujikuro any face. In the end, she didn't communicate with Shizuka Kusujikuro at all. Ayako didn't completely ignore Shizuka Kusujikuro because they were in the same school and she was the president of the student council, but the communication between them was also very limited. This situation would probably continue until Shizuka Kusujikuro was cleared of being in cahoots with a foreign magician. The poor Shizuka Kusujikuro didn't know that he was being monitored by a chirping messenger bird every day. He was also ignored by his roommates except for Noah. He maintained the 3 points of manner, school, work, and lived a self-satisfied life. Noah thought that such a peaceful life before the storm would continue until the magician hiding in the dark appeared. However, one day after a week, such a peaceful life was broken by an unexpected guest. On this day, Noah went to Yoju's library as usual and studied the use of advanced runi magic in the library. Unlike other libraries, Yoju's library didn't have any smell of books, and the seemingly old books wouldn't decay with the passage of time. Such an environment was like the fairyland where witches lived in fairy tales. It looked simple and ordinary, but if one thought about it carefully, it would be incredible. Because of this, for Yuju, the library was a place where she could relax and feel at ease. In addition, Noah wasn't the kind of person who would be half-hearted when reading, or not cherish the books and casually destroy them. Now, Yuju was no longer against staying in the library with Noah to read. If a third party came to the library, they would definitely notice. Every day, Noah and Yuju would stay together in the corner of the library to read books. The distance between the two was not too far nor too close. It was as if they had blended into the environment of the library, immersing themselves in the world of books. This could be considered the tacit understanding that Noah and Yuju had developed in this period of time. The same tacit understanding was also developed between Noah and Ayoko. However, it wasn't through reading, but when Noah was practicing Magic Bullet, Ayoko would often appear as if she wanted to compete with Noah, cutting in and silently practicing together. If no one came to pay attention to Noah and Yuju, the two of them would continue to read in silence until the evening. But today, right after they finished their lunch, the sound of footsteps suddenly echoed from the entrance of the library, attracting Noah and Yuju's attention. Yuju was the happiest when she was reading. This kind of happiness was disturbed, causing Yuju to show a rare expression of displeasure. She stared at the entrance of the library, and after a while, a trace of surprise appeared in her eyes. This was because the people who came to the library were people who were usually resistant to entering. Swaying her waist-length black hair, Ayoko's face carried the same displeasure as Yuju as she walked into the library. Looking at Ayoko's displeased face, Noah curiously asked, "It's really strange that you would appear here." Hearing this, Ayoko was unhappy and didn't respond to Noah's words, making Noah even more curious. What? Could it be that Jingxi made you angry again? It's best if it's only to this extent, then at least there won't be any possibility of trouble. Ayoko coldly snorted and looked straight at Noah, her eyes full of seriousness. There's someone outside looking for you. Looking for me? Noah was stunned. Even Yuju turned her head and looked at Noah. Noah saw the displeasure and seriousness in Ayoko's eyes. After a moment of silence, he closed the book in his hand. Under Yuju's gaze, he silently walked to the place where the book was originally placed, put the book back, and then walked out of the library. Ayoko and Yuju looked at each other and followed. Without Yuju's permission, even if someone came to visit the mansion, Ayoko wouldn't bring that person into the mansion and challenge Yuju's bottom line. Knowing this, Noah directly left the mansion, went to the courtyard, and walked in the direction of the iron fence. It wasn't until he walked out of the iron fence and came to the outside ramp that Noah saw a figure that made Noah frown. Not only Noah but even Yuju, who came out with Ayoko, was very surprised to see the visitor, and her expression became uncertain. It was not because of anything else. It was because the visitor's identity was very special. Since the first time we met, I had a premonition that we would meet again, but I didn't expect it to come so soon. A tall man wearing a priest's attire that resembled a black cloak stood at the bottom of the ramp. His voice was steady, and he exuded a dangerous aura that outsiders could not comprehend. He looked at Noah from afar, and the moment their eyes met, a smile that came from the bottom of his heart appeared on his face. "Do you want to come with me to find the lamb hidden in the city?" Chapter 328. Whoosh! The cold winter wind seemed to have no regard for human feelings at all as it swept through the park that was rarely visited by people. The leaves fluttered up and down with the cold wind. The morning water droplets seemed to have been preserved until now. Under the attack of the cold wind, they dripped down little by little. There was not much shelter around the park. There was only a road that connected the front and back of the park. Of course, it would not weaken the cold wind. Therefore, even during the day, not many people would pass by here. It was quite desolate. Under such circumstances, two figures walked over from the other side of the road as if they were out of place and arrived at the park. This park was one of the fulcrums of Sanyo City's spiritual veins enchantment, which was set up by the magician hiding in the dark not long ago. After about 10 days, Noah came here again. The difference was that this time it was not late at night. The people who came with Noah were not two beautiful girls. The fulcrums of Sanyo City's spiritual veins enchantment were not inside the park. It had been eliminated by Ayoko Aozaki and Yuju. It was unknown whether when Binjiangli deliberately brought Noah here to mock Noah's mistake last time. In silence they came to the inside of the park. Whoosh! The biting cold wind still attacked mercilessly, making the hem of Noah's coat and when Binjiangli's cloak move up and down in the wind. Looking around the park, Noah's indifferent voice sounded. "The so-called lamb hidden in the city you mentioned is here?" Noah was still trying to figure out the purpose of when Binjiangli's sudden visit, claiming that it had nothing to do with them in front of Ayoko Aozaki and Yuju, and bringing him out alone when the two girls were slightly unfriendly. However, Noah still came with when Binjiangli, because intuition told Noah that when Binjiangli definitely knew a lot of things. It should be here, right? Undoubtedly, he was a priest. However, when Binjiangli used an inauspicious and pious tone to say such a sentence as if it had nothing to do with him. If my memory serves me right, when I was asked to invite you out, this is the place the lost lamb mentioned. Requested? Noah's eyes flickered slightly. At this moment, an elegant yet violent, yet very pleasant voice sounded from the other side of the park. I did ask you to do such a thing, but when did I become the lost sheep that you're talking about? Pretentious bastard. Along with this voice, clear footsteps could be heard from the other side of the park. In the next moment, in the bleak cold wind, a slender but unusually tall and full figure entered Noah's field of vision. It was a lady with short reddish-brown hair, wearing a simple green coat but looking unusually noble. She had a scarf around her neck. She was like a star bathing in the light, exuding a strong sense of presence that could not be ignored. She had a strong and stern face as she gradually approached. Looking at that pretty face, Noah could not help but feel a sense of familiarity. It was as if he was facing an existence similar to that face every day. However, this feeling was quickly thrown to the back of Noah's mind. This was because, no matter how one looked at it, Noah's outstanding sensing ability sensed a kind of power from this attractive lady. Magic. In other words, this lady in front of him was a magician. Just as this thought arose in Noah's mind, another feeling seemed to deliberately oppose this thought, drilling into Noah's heart. It was an indescribable sense of dissonance. Instantly, the sense of familiarity, dissonance, and power rolled in Noah's heart at the same time, causing Noah to slightly squint his eyes as he looked at the lady. Compared to Noah, Wenbing Yongli smiled calmly as if she was greeting a friend she had not seen for a long time. We meet again, Chung. If possible, I really don't want to see you again because I'm afraid I won't be able to resist killing you. The lady named Chung said these words with a vicious tone. When she looked at Noah, her eyes became sharp, but her tone became much gentler. This is the first time we meet face to face, right? This sentence allowed Noah to confirm the other party's identity. This lady named Chung in front of him was the magician who had been hiding in the dark, and who had tricked Noah and his group. Ha! Noah sneered, and said with a hidden meaning. So the church has joined forces with the foreign magician? Although the conversation between Chung and Wenbing Yongli made it seem like they were enemies, it was obvious that they knew each other. Moreover, Wenbing Yongli had always known the identity of the foreign magician who had invaded Sanyi City, but she had kept it a secret and did not provide it to the manager of Sanyi City's spiritual vein, saying that there was nothing fishy about these two? Who would believe that? You're wrong. However, Chung sneered. We didn't join forces, we just reached an agreement not to invade each other. Don't be surprised, for the worms of the church, internal strife between magicians is definitely something they would like to see. After saying this, Chung did not give Wenbing Yongli a chance to refute. She looked at Wenbing Yongli coldly. There's nothing for you to do here, can you leave now? Wenbing Yongli revealed an emotionless smile without the slightest trace of anger. She turned her head and said to Noah, I'll be waiting for you outside. After saying this, Wenbing Yongli turned around and left the park decisively. From the beginning to the end, Chung had been staring at Wenbing Yongli's back. Noah could clearly feel that Orange seemed to heave a sigh of relief after Wenbing Yongli left the park. Don't mind him. Chung put one hand on her waist and tilted her head slightly, as if she was looking down at her opponent. She smiled sweetly. If I let that guy continue to stay here, I can't guarantee that he will suddenly pull out a knife and swing it at my neck. That guy is a lunatic. I don't have the confidence to pay attention to him all the time when I'm talking to others. Really? Noah curled his lips indifferently. I don't mind. Of course. Chung acknowledged Noah's ability. After all, you're a monster who can even block Bio. That guy should be no different from a moving mantis in your eyes, right? Bio. Noah raised his dark eyes slightly. You're really the magician who chased away the golden beast in the forest that day? Although that was what he said, Noah's heart was filled with doubts. Noah had completely memorized the magician's aura that day. Although Cheng's aura was more or less the same as that of the other day, Noah felt that something was not right for some reason. He felt that something was wrong. With this feeling, Noah fully activated his sensing ability and scanned Chung directly. After a while, Noah's eyes suddenly focused. A puppet? In Cheng's eyes, a sharp light that even men would be afraid of flashed past. Then Cheng laughed out loud. You're really not an ordinary person. I was confident that I wouldn't be discovered by you. Saying so, Orange let down all his guard and raised his hand in surrender. You are right. This is just a mannequin in front of you. I put my will into this mannequin, and that's why I dared to talk to you. I didn't think I would be discovered so quickly. Seems my skills are not good enough. I need to practice. Practice? She could create a puppet that was almost the same as the real person. Even Noah didn't notice it at first and only felt that something was wrong. She still needed to practice with such skills. If she continued to practice, she might even be able to create a puppet that was exactly the same as the real person. This woman named Cheng actually had such skills. It was really shocking. No wonder she could spend so much money on expensive automatons. However, if this was the case, even if Noah really wanted to attack Cheng, it would be useless. After suppressing the thoughts in his heart, Noah said impatiently, "Tell me your purpose, magician." Purpose? Orange closed his eyes, a strange and cold smile appearing on his face. Speaking of which, there really is such a thing. As soon as he finished speaking, Orange opened his eyes and looked at Noah with a meaningful gaze. Who are you? Chapter 329. Who are you? In the park, the temperature in the air suddenly dropped to freezing point. Meeting Orange's cold and stern eyes, Noah smiled faintly. You don't know who I am? Noah knew that Orange was not asking for his name but his identity. However, Noah did not know why Orange asked him this question. Did the other party discover something strange? Or was it simply because Orange wanted to investigate Noah's identity but couldn't? Although Noah had hacked into the national database, left his personal information there, and forged an identity, the identity of the surface world obviously did not apply to the inner world. If Orange could not find any traces of Noah in the magic world after some investigation, it would not be strange for Orange to be suspicious of Noah's identity. No one knew what Orange was thinking. Looking at Noah's faintly smiling face, Orange suddenly laughed. Do you know why Bio is following me? Hearing this, Noah frowned. This was indeed a mystery. Logically speaking, as a fantasy breed, that was equivalent to mystery and miracles. The golden wolf called Bio had no reason to listen to Orange, a magician. Compared to the fantasy breed, that only existed in fantasy and legends, human magicians were too weak. They were so weak that if they were bitten, most of them would not be able to survive. In this case, why would the golden wolf listen to Orange's orders? As you can see, Bio is a werewolf and there is an atavism in the werewolf tribe. He has surpassed the silver wolf that should be the leader of the werewolves, crossed the category of magical beast, and became an existence of fantasy beast. Orange seemed to be amused by something and let out an untimely and creepy laugh. Originally, as such a high concentration of mystery, and the embodiment of mystery, Bio should have the intelligence of any creature, but Bio underwent a mutation and evolved in a strange direction. Suddenly, Noah's gaze turned cold. Evolved in a strange direction? There was indeed something wrong with the golden wolf, Bio. You noticed it too, didn't you? Orange stared at Noah. That's right. Bio has already started to surpass the category of illusory beast and evolve towards divine beast. And the price of this evolution is that Bio will lose his intelligence. There was no excitement in Orange's eyes as he spoke in a mocking tone. Bio, who should have been born as a perfect creature, even if his strength exceeds the category of a fantasy breed and is probably stronger than a dragon, who is said to be at the peak of the fantasy breed, he doesn't have intelligence at all. He's just like a beast with great strength. Can this really be considered evolution? A strange light appeared in Noah's eyes. According to Orange, the golden wolf Bio was supposed to be a perfect creature. He was supposed to be a fantasy breed that only existed in fantasy and legends. He was supposed to be born in this world and possess intelligence that was comparable to that of humans. But for some reason, the golden wolf Bio seemed to have undergone a strange evolution. His strength had increased tremendously, to the point where even Orange's evaluation of him as a dragon standing at the peak of the fantasy breed couldn't compare to him. However, his intelligence had been affected, and he hadn't been able to evolve. A powerful beast. Orange's description was perfect for the golden wolf Bio. But why would the golden wolf Bio undergo such a change? This was something that Orange couldn't figure out. But Noah was almost certain that this had something to do with the world fragment that existed in the golden wolf Bio's body. Although this was just a guess, Noah was almost 100% certain. After all, the world fragment could exist in all kinds of forms. It wasn't strange that it would affect a fantasy breed when it appeared in its body. And the world was fair. Through the influence, the golden wolf Bio obtained great strength and evolved at a higher level of life. At the same time, the golden wolf Bio's intelligence was only comparable to that of an ordinary beast. This was the price, right? Orange was right to be so sarcastic. That couldn't be considered evolution at all. No matter how strong he was, without enough intelligence, even a mythical beast would be no more than an ordinary beast. Looking at the sarcastic Orange, Noah's furrowed brows slowly relaxed. You're actually with such a dangerous thing? If the golden wolf Bio's intelligence was only comparable to that of an ordinary beast, then it would be normal for him to attack people. It was a miracle that nothing happened to Orange while he was with such a dangerous existence. Orange also understood what Noah meant and raised his eyebrows. Bio won't hurt me. I signed a contract with him. With the restrictions of the contract, Bio won't be able to hurt me. You signed a contract with that wolf? Noah asked in surprise. His first thought was disbelief. If the golden wolf Bio had the intelligence of a human, then they could negotiate and sign a contract. But now the golden wolf Bio only had the intelligence of a beast. How could he sign a contract with a human? What was the difference between that and a ferocious lion obediently offering its neck to a human, and putting a collar on a human while hunting in the forest every day? Orange seemed to enjoy the surprise of Noah, who had been calm all this while and even saw through her true form. She smiled happily. Actually, I was also very confused. When I found Bio in the cave in Northern Europe, I noticed Bio's condition. I thought I was at my wit's end and tried to sign a contract with him. In the end, Bio accepted it without any resistance. At that time I thought I was dreaming. As he spoke, Orange crossed his arms, and the smile on his face became slightly arrogant. Luckily, Bio only had the intelligence of a beast. He didn't understand that if he wanted to resist me, he had to break the contract first. Otherwise, he would be bound by the contract and have to listen to my orders. This saved me a lot of trouble. Hearing this, even Noah smiled bitterly in his heart. With the power of the golden wolf Bio, breaking the contract was a piece of cake. But at this time the disadvantage of his lack of intelligence showed. If the golden wolf Bio wanted to resist Orange, he had to break the contract. But he just couldn't understand this point. Undoubtedly, he was a dog with sharp teeth that could bite off a collar on its neck. He was tied up, but he didn't know that he had to bite off the collar on his neck first. Instead, he foolishly wanted to rush out. In the end, he couldn't escape. Thinking of this, Noah couldn't help but feel suspicious. Why would the golden wolf Bio accept Orange's contract for no reason? Actually, Noah didn't know that this was also due to the influence of the world fragment. Just like the world fragments in Between Worlds, the world fragments also longed for Noah to fix them. This longing affected the golden wolf Bio, causing him to have the subconscious of looking for Noah. Orange definitely didn't know that the reason why the golden wolf Bio accepted the contract without any resistance was because of the world's guidance. Just like how Noah received a hint from the world about the location of the world fragment, the golden wolf Bio subconsciously wanted to find Noah. Because of the world fragment in his body, the moment he saw Orange, he had the world's hint that he could reach his goal by following this person. Therefore, the golden wolf Bio became Orange's familiar. Noah didn't know all of this. Orange didn't know either. The golden wolf Bio, who only had the intelligence of a wild beast, didn't know either. Of course, although Orange didn't know what was going on, she noticed that other than the strange direction of Bio's evolution, there was something strange about him. Do you know? Orange looked at Noah coldly. Ever since we signed the contract, Bio has never disobeyed my orders. The only time it disobeyed my orders was when it suddenly disappeared and appeared in front of you. Furthermore, ever since it saw you, Bio has become a lot more berserk. If it wasn't for the restriction of the contract, I would have been bitten to death by it. What did you do to Bio? Why did Bio become so violent after seeing you? Or is there something on you that attracted Bio? Orange looked straight at Noah. I was curious about this, so I started to investigate you. However, I didn't find any traces of you in the magic world. Your identity in the normal world is also very suspicious. You can't be trusted at all. Orange's irritable voice slowly echoed in the air. You, who the hell are you? Chapter 330. Noah and Orange stared at each other from a distance and didn't say anything for a long time. Orange was waiting for Noah to speak. Noah, on the other hand, did not know how to answer Orange's question. Noah naturally did not know why Golden Wolf Bio had such a change after seeing him. Therefore, Noah could only continue to guess that it was the effect of the world fragment. No matter what kind of effect the world fragment had on Golden Wolf Bio, he did not know if it was a good thing that Golden Wolf Bio started to disobey Orange's orders. After all, it was unknown whether Bio, the Golden Wolf, would go berserk and turn the entire Sanyi city upside down after losing Orange's restraint. Of course, for Noah, after knowing that Golden Wolf Bio was overly obsessed with him under the influence of the world fragment, he was somewhat relieved. At least, Noah did not have to worry that Golden Wolf Bio would mysteriously go missing. If Golden Wolf Bio was really affected by the world fragment and reacted to him, then it was only a matter of time before he came looking for Noah. At that time, Noah would be able to retrieve the world fragment that was lodged in Golden Wolf Bio's body. At that moment, Noah smiled indifferently. Did you ask me out just to ask this question? This is considered one of your goals, right? Orange looked at Noah from afar, a different kind of expression surging in her originally cold eyes. She looked like she was staring at some kind of prey. Under such circumstances, Orange asked a question. What's your relationship with Ayoko? Ayoko? Noah was a little surprised by Orange's sudden question. Then he suddenly realized something. From the beginning, Noah felt that Orange gave him an inexplicable sense of familiarity. Now that Orange reminded him, Noah suddenly realized that this sense of familiarity came from Orange's expression. That awe-inspiring yet valiant expression was not exactly the same as Ayoko Aozaki, but they were very similar. Orange Oko. Could it be? Noah's heart skipped a beat and he spat out 4 words. Ouchie Orange. Orange raised his chin. He didn't say anything, but the expression on his face gradually became joyful. Thank you for taking care of that useless little sister of mine. This disguised admission made Noah's face sink. Ouchie Orange. Ayoko Aozaki. Noah's guess was right. Orange and Qingzi were sisters. Biological sisters. Although we haven't met for a few years, I can still predict what kind of abilities Qingzi has. Oh right, Yuzhu is also my good friend and I know her very well. Before I came to Sanyi City, I already had a perfect plan on how to deal with Qingzi and Yuzhu. Changzi's voice turned cruel. It's just that I didn't expect that a person would suddenly appear in this battle and affect my trump card. I originally thought that you were Qingzi's hidden trump card, but now it seems that you also have your own position. What's your relationship with Qingzi? Orange asked for the second time. The way she looked at Noah was no longer cold and irritable. Instead, she became interested. According to your answer, I will also decide what kind of treatment to give you in the next battle. That one sentence made the atmosphere, which had dropped to the freezing point, become tense. After a while, Noah suddenly laughed. My relationship with the Qingzi you mentioned is very vague. If you want to use something as a standard to measure it, right, what's the relationship between us? We kissed? Kissed? Orange was stunned. When she came to her senses, she couldn't help laughing. That is to say, you are Qingzi's possession? Qingzi's possession? Noah shrugged. I don't object to your understanding, but if you must, I hope you can understand it differently. Saying this, Noah's face showed an intriguing expression. He looked straight ahead. It's not that I'm Qingzi's possession, but that Qingzi is my possession. The smile on Orange's face gradually disappeared. Her eyes fixed on Noah gradually turned cold, as if she had abandoned all feelings. I understand. You are Qingzi's trump card, and you are destined to be my enemy. That's all I need to understand. After saying this, Orange turned her back, exposing her almost perfect back to Noah's eyes. Are you ready at the last fulcrum? I will also go back and prepare. The next time we meet, it will be the time to kill. After saying this, Orange didn't look back. As if she had completed the most important task, she left the park with powerful steps. Looking at Orange's vivid back, Noah found it hard to believe that she was a puppet that crawled on the ground like an ant. With the technology to create puppets of that level and a fantasy breed that was even stronger than a dragon, Ouchie Orange was definitely a strong opponent. Looking at Orange's back, Noah turned around and walked out of the park against the cold wind after a while. At the corner of the road outside the park, when Bingyongli stared at Noah with fox-like eyes, she still had a calm smile on her face. It's rare to see Orange talk to someone for so long. It seems that you two get along very well. I don't know if I get along with Ouchie Orange yet. Noah stopped and glanced at Wen Bingyongli. But I know that we will never get along. After saying this, Noah's body suddenly moved. As if turning into a shadow, he appeared in front of Wen Bingyongli like a ghost. The smile on Wen Bingyongli's face froze. Her pupils shrank, and her body instantly tensed up. She jumped and retreated quickly. Almost at the same time, a hand appeared out of thin air, piercing through the air and passing by where Wen Bing and Yongli had been standing. At this moment, a cold light flashed in Wen Bingyongli's eyes. Her body suddenly stopped retreating. Like a spring, she charged forward instead of retreating. Clang! A cold lightning-like light lit up from Wen Bingyongli's thick cloak. Like a poisonous snake, it stabbed toward Noah viciously. That speed seemed to have surpassed the speed of sound. It flashed through the air. No matter how powerful a magician was, once this attack that seemed to surpass the speed of sound got close to them, they would definitely die. For such an attack to appear from a priest who wasn't even a magician, it could only be described as a godly skill. This was the priest of the Hetian Church, Wen Bingyongli. He was an existence that even Orange found difficult to deal with and was on guard against. However, in front of Wen Bingyongli, there was an even more incredible existence. Even if he didn't use magic and magic, he still had terrifying strength. A hand suddenly appeared from the side. Like an arrow, it cut through the air. In a thousandth of a second, it suddenly touched the cold light that shot toward Wen Bingyongli. Pa! With a crisp sound, the strong hand grasped the wrist of Wen Bingyongli, who was holding the cold light. At this moment, the lightning-like cold light showed its full appearance. It was a saber. A very sharp long saber. Whoosh! In the next second, against the air and with the sound of the wind, a leg that turned into a shadow hit Wen Bingyongli's chest heavily like a ferocious whip. Bang! A muffled sound and a strong impact exploded in front of Wen Bingyongli's chest at the same time. Gurgle! Wen Bingyongli groaned. Her whole body was directly hit into the air. Like a kite with a broken string, she smashed into a wall. Puff! Wen Bingyongli, who was almost embedded into the wall, felt a sharp pain in his chest. His body twitched and his face turned pale. He spat out a mouthful of blood, which splashed all over the ground. His body slowly slid down the wall. At this moment, the foot that had just heavily kicked Wen Bingyongli's chest suddenly flashed and fell on Wen Bingyongli's body. Bang! Another muffled sound came. Dong! Wen Bingyongli's body, which was slowly sliding down along the wall, was directly trampled to the ground. Gurgle! The sharp pain from her chest and the impact from her back made Wen Bingyongli spit out a mouthful of red blood again. Like a blood flower, it sprayed to the sky and then fell down again. Wen Bingyongli's paler face was dyed red. Chapter 331. Cough cough. At this moment, Wen Bingyongli felt as if his body was no longer his own. Apart from pain, all other sensations were far away, and he couldn't feel anything at all. I thought I could take you down in one move, but I didn't expect you to be so capable. As expected of the church's lackey, even if you're not a magician, you can still display considerable strength. No wonder Ouchie Orange is so afraid of you. On the other side, Noah still had one foot on Wen Bingyongli's chest as he looked down at Wen Bingyongli, whose pale face was dyed red by dark red blood. There was a smile on his face, but there was no smile in his eyes. However, for a priest to carry a weapon used to kill, you are really incompetent. Saying this, Noah slightly crouched down and touched the half of Wen Bingyongli's body that was covered by the cloak. He immediately took out two sharp long swords. In other words, including the one in Wen Bingyongli's hand, Wen Bingyongli had a total of 3 long swords on him. Clang clang. The sound of the sharp long saber being casually thrown to the ground echoed, which made Wen Bingyong, who was a little confused, more or less sober. Cough cough. Wen Bingyongli raised his pale face that was dyed red by blood, and looked up at Noah, who had one foot on his chest. He actually laughed out loud. Compared to a magician, I am indeed incompetent. I don't have the decisiveness of a magician to casually attack others based on their mood. No matter what, I can't be careless. Based on your mood? Noah narrowed his eyes and laughed. You're right, my mood is indeed ruined by you. Noah gradually increased the strength of his foot that was stepping on Wenbin Jiangli's chest, causing Wenbin Jiangli's pale face to gradually turn red. Then, Noah's voice drilled into Wenbin Jiangli's ears. I say, Sir Priest, don't tell me you think you've hidden your killing intent very well? Looking at Wenbin Yongli's face that was gradually turning red, the expression in Noah's eyes was abnormally cold, and there was a faint smile on his face. From the moment we met at the gate of the Kuanji mansion to the moment we met Aoqi Chang in this park, the killing intent and killing intent release from you made my skin feel a bit painful. Wenbin Yongli's expression changed, and a look of surprise appeared in his eyes. Obviously, Wenbin Yongli really thought that he had hidden himself well, and had not been discovered by Noah. And after Aoqi Orange asked you to step down on the surface, you obediently stepped down, but do you really think you can hide it from me? In fact, you've been hiding at the side looking for an opportunity, right? Noah continued to speak as if he didn't see Wenbin Yongli's reaction. Find a chance to attack me. Wenbin Yongli's heart turned cold. Even this had been discovered? Aoqi Chang is right, you're a madman. Noah coldly looked at Wenbin Yongli. If I attack you based on my mood, then you don't have any reason to kill me. Wenbin Yongli, Sir Priest, do you really think I won't do anything to you? I have a reason, didn't I say it before? Wenbin Yongli was silent for a while, and suddenly smiled. I just want to try to kill you. This sentence did not make Noah feel angry, nor did it make Noah feel frightened. Instead, it made Noah's gaze on Wenbin Yongli begin to become sympathetic. The man in front of him could no longer be described as crazy, but an extreme emptiness. No matter who it was, as long as he wanted to kill someone, he must have a reason. This reason could be because of benefits, or it could be because of personal feelings. Even if it was a madman who took pleasure in killing, since killing made the madman feel pleasure, then the madman would kill in pursuit of pleasure. This was also a reason. But for the man in front of him, killing did not need a reason, nor did it need to be mixed with any personal feelings. It was purely a choice of kill or not kill. In other words, Wenbin Yongli was not so much a person, but a knife. A knife that could kill would never have any feelings, nor would it have a reason to stain itself with blood. As long as someone wielded it, it could kill. Wenbin Yongli was such an existence. For Wenbin Yongli, the only reason for killing was probably the so-called whim. Just like in the past and now when he wanted to kill Noah twice. Because he wanted to kill, he felt that he could kill. So he would do it for no reason. It was this kind of Wenbin Yongli that made Aoqi Chang use the adjective madman to describe him. This person could no longer be called a person. Perhaps the reason why Wenbin Yongli accepted Aoqi Chang's request and brought Noah here was just to find a chance to kill Noah. Besides that, there was no other reason. Noah's pair of deep dark eyes swept over Wenbin Yongli, and then the corner of his mouth slowly raised. You're a human on the outside, but you're a weapon on the inside. Killing is the only meaning of your existence. Other than that, you're nothing. Your existence really makes people feel sympathy for you. Originally, I wanted to directly deal with you, a dazzling guy, but now it seems that breaking a knife swung at me doesn't give me any sense of accomplishment. I'll give you another way to deal with it. After saying that, Noah stretched out his hand and put a finger on Wenbin Yongli's chest. The magic in his body slowly gathered and concentrated on the finger, so that the tip of the finger bloomed with magic light. Then, under Wenbin Yongli's gaze, Noah seemed to be drawing something as it slid across Wenbin Yongli's chest. Buzz! A second later, a rune flashed in front of Wenbin Yongli's chest as if it had taken root. Countless root-like veins extended from his body and covered his entire body. Almost at the same time, an indescribable pain attacked Wenbin Yongli's entire body and even his nerves. Ah! A heart-wrenching scream erupted from Wenbin Yongli's mouth. Looking at Wenbin Yongli, who was twitching and screaming on the ground, Noah looked at him coldly as if he didn't see or hear anything. This is the rune that represents pain. The activation condition is when killing intent emerges in your heart. Hearing this, Wenbin Yongli was shocked by the indescribable pain all over his body. The activation condition was when the killing intent emerged in the heart? What did this mean? It meant that if Wenbing Yongli continued to be affected by this runi, he would never be able to summon killing intent in his entire life. For Wenbing Yongli, whose only purpose of existence was to kill, Noah's actions were robbing him of his purpose of existence, turning him into a real zombie. Oh right, let me tell you something. The method to remove this runi is very simple. You just need to use more magic to attack it. Noah glanced at Wenbing Yongli, who was in so much pain that the veins on his face were bulging. That would require around 30 magicians to use all of their magic to do it, right? 30 magicians? That wouldn't be a difficult number for the Magic Association to gather. However, Wenbing Yongli wasn't a member of the Magic Association, but rather a member of the Holy Church. They were the enemies of the Magic Association and viewed magicians as heretics of the Holy Church. You want the Holy Church to help Wenbing Yongli find 30 magicians to remove the runi? Then the Holy Church would rather use the name of dedicating my life to the Lord, to leave Wenbing Yongli to his own devices? As for Wenbing Yongli, it would be extremely difficult for him to find 30 magicians to help him. After all, there were less than 5 magicians in Sanyi City. Only the headquarters of the Magic Association would have so many magicians, right? Moreover, it wasn't certain if anyone would choose to help Wenbing Yongli. Therefore, unless something unexpected happened, Wenbing Yongli probably wouldn't be able to remove the runi for the rest of his life. Realizing this, Wenbing Yongli laughed instead of being angry. You're really strict with me. Noah didn't even bother to pay attention to Wenbing Yongli. He turned around and left without hesitation, heading towards the Jiyuan Temple residence. At the scene, only Wenbing Yongli was left staring at Noah's back as he endured the pain on his body, letting out muffled groans. Presumably, Wenbing Yongli's killing intent towards Noah wouldn't subside for at least an hour. Chapter 332. It was already noon when Wenbing Yongri found Noah and left the Kuenji mansion. Now, with the time spent on the road and the confrontation with Ouchi Orange and Wenbing Yongli, when Noah returned to the White Dog Mound and walked along the slope to the gate of the Kuenji mansion, the sky just began to darken. The setting sun appeared with the dusk, illuminating the iron fence of the Kuenji mansion. Pushing open the iron fence and walking into the courtyard, Noah walked along the tree-lined path to the front door of the mansion and entered the entrance. There was only a pair of shoes at the entrance. They were Aoko's shoes. In the mansion, other than Noah and Yuju, Aoko's lifestyle could be said to be purely Japanese. Even if there was no one at home, she had to greet them. She would not wear shoes when she entered the mansion. Therefore, Aoko's shoes were usually placed at the entrance of the mansion. If there were slippers, it meant that Aoko had gone out. If there were slippers, it meant that Aoko was in the mansion. As for Shizuka Kusujikuro, his way of life was purely for the purpose of convenience. For example, in the winter, in order to keep warm, Shizuki Kusujiro would wear shoes when he entered the mansion. If the weather was not cold, he would go barefoot. He was quite casual. Noah and Yuju, on the other hand, would definitely wear shoes when they entered the mansion. They would not allow themselves to be barefoot. Therefore, when he saw Aoko's shoes at the entrance, Noah knew that Aoko had not gone out and was still in the mansion. The door on the east side of the hall was wide open. The light from the living room was also projected from the door, illuminating a corner of the hall. Noah, who had sensed Aoko and Yoju's aura from the living room, immediately walked through the door on the east side. He pushed open the door and entered the living room. In the brightly lit living room, Aoko and Yuju were sitting on the sofa facing each other. One was watching TV while the other was quietly reading a book. When Noah entered the living room, whether it was Aoko who was watching TV or Yuju who was reading a book, all of them turned their heads towards Noah. Their gazes were all fixed on Noah. If it was any other time, Aoko and Yuju would have ignored Noah's return and continued with their own business. But today was clearly an exception. "You're back." Aoko looked straight at Noah. "I thought you would come back later." "That's what I thought at first, but things seem to have been resolved faster than I thought," Noah casually replied as he sat down beside Aoko. "Where's Jingshi?" "He went out to work." Aoko replied in a perfunctory manner before asking with a serious expression, "Why is that priest looking for you?" On the opposite side, Yuju also looked closely at Noah. She seemed to be very concerned about this question. The relationship between magician and the church wasn't good to begin with. Although Wen Bingyongli was neutral and didn't side with the church or magician, his identity was still very sensitive. Besides, no one knew what kind of person Wen Bingyongli was better than Aoko and Yuzhu. To put it bluntly, that person only remembered his own matters and did things based on his own mood. He was a complete egoist. For such a pretentious person to purposely come here to invite Noah out, no one would believe that nothing had happened. Noah turned his head and didn't say anything. He just looked into Aoko's eyes. His dark and deep eyes were filled with a look that Aoko couldn't understand. What are you doing? Aoko, who felt a little uncomfortable, subconsciously wanted to turn her head away. However, her innate unwillingness to admit defeat made her suppress this impulse. Instead, she glared fiercely at Noah. Could it be that the matter you are talking about has something to do with me? Noah still looked straight into Aoko's eyes that were filled with determination and awe. After a while, he closed his eyes and turned his head away. That fake priest brought me to meet someone. Although Noah's tone was calm and casual, Aoko did not dare to feel relaxed at all. Because for Noah, the matter that was not important could be the biggest trouble for Aoko. Aoko and Yuzhu looked at each other, then turned their gaze to Noah. Noah finally sighed when he sensed the gazes of the two girls. That's your sister. Before Yuzhu could react, Aoko's delicate body trembled as she looked at Noah. Who did you say? Your sister. Noah glanced at Aoko Aozaki. During this period of time we have been racking our brains to deal with the opponent, the foreign magician who tricked the three of us, your sister Aoko-chan. In the living room, a burst of oppressive silence suddenly filled the air. Aoko's awe-inspiring face flashed with all kinds of emotions in an instant. After a while, it turned into complete calmness with a faint trace of resentment. I see. Now I understand everything. Not to mention Aoko, even Yuzhu seemed to have understood the reason behind this, and a hint of gloominess flashed through her eyes. In this way, the reason why the enchantment of Sanyo City can't detect the enemy is clear. Hearing the two girls' words, Noah more or less understood. Previously, the enchantment of Sanyo City could not detect the movement of intruders. It was not because the enemy this time had a special magic concealment technique like Noah, but because the enemy was very familiar with the enchantment of Sanyo City. As Aoko's sister, Aoko-chan should be very familiar with the enchantment of Sanyo City. In this way, to hide from the detection of the enchantment was a simple matter for Aoko-chan. I don't understand. Why did your older sister become a foreign magician who came to compete for the barrier of Sanyo City? Noah asked Aoko with a question that had been bothering him for a long time. I think that your sister's ability is much higher than a trainee magician like you. In this case, why did it evolve into the current situation? In order to be able to reach the origin, magicians would spend their lifetime to turn their research results into magic engraving and leave it to their descendants, so that their descendants could inherit their research and find the path to the origin. In a magic family, there was only one magic engraving. It was the real treasure passed down from generation to generation in this magic family. And since Aoko-chan was Aoko-chan's sister, it proved that she was also a magician from the Aoko family. As a result, why wasn't Aochi Aoko the more capable one who inherited the magic seal and became the successor of the Aochi family? Instead, why was it Aochi Aoko who inherited the magic seal and became an apprentice magician who had only studied magic for less than 2 years? Do you think that the Aoko family is the same as other magic families? Aoko naturally understood why Noah had such a question and was speechless. The Aoko family is different from other magic families. Hearing this, Noah's heart was moved. If there was a difference between the Aoko family and other magic families, then Noah could only think of one thing. Magic. That's right. Aoko let out a rare bitter laugh. Unlike other magicians who would sacrifice their entire lives in order to reach the origin, the Aozaki family already possesses magic and has already reached the origin. There is no need for the Aozaki family to risk their lives in order to reach the origin. The Aozaki family only needs to do one thing. Aoko raised her hand and rolled up her sleeves, exposing the tattoo on her arm. Inheriting magic is the foundation of the Aoko family. The ultimate goal of a magician was to reach the origin, and magic was the ultimate way to reach the origin. Whether it was to create magic to reach the origin, or to obtain magic after reaching the origin, as long as one had magic, it was equivalent to grasping the path to the origin. Therefore, the Ayoko family who had magic was no longer a magic family, who left behind research topics for their descendants to study, in order to reach the origin. The Ayoko family's magic engraving contained magic. As long as one could use magic, then anyone could reach the origin. For the Ayoko family, magic was the foundation, because the Ayoko family already had the means to reach the origin. Although it's embarrassing, I'll say it clearly. Ayoko's face was tense. I'm afraid that my sister's goal is not the spiritual vein in Sano City, but the magic in my hands. Chapter 333. It was believed that no matter who it was, as long as it was a magician whose goal was to reach the origin, it would be impossible for them to reject magic that could reach the origin. If it wasn't for the fact that the magic mark could only be used on direct descendants, then for the sake of magic, the Aozaki family would have already been trampled to the ground by countless magicians in the magic world who had gone mad in order to reach the origin. It was also because of this that even though she was only a half-baked magician, Aozaki Ayoko was still able to live a good life in Sano City. Unfortunately, the enemy this time wasn't an unorthodox magician, but Aozaki Ayoko's biological sister Aozaki Orange. As a direct descendant of the Aozaki family, as long as Aozaki Ayoko's magic mark was stolen, Aozaki Orange could still inherit the Aozaki family and obtain magic. Therefore, for Aozaki Ayoko, no matter how she looked at it, Aozaki Orange was the worst enemy, without exception. Actually, my sister is the original successor of the Aozaki family. In the living room, Aozaki Ayoko, who was sitting on the sofa, said these words in an emotionless tone. From the moment my sister was born, she was raised by my grandfather with the goal of inheriting magic as her goal. Since she was a child, she grew up in the form of a magic egg, in order to inherit the magic of the Aozaki family one day. My sister's talent for magic is very amazing. Compared to my sister, I only started to receive training as a magician at the age of 15. After nearly 2 years, I was still an apprentice magician. I can't compare to her. Aozaki Ayoko said this, but her expression was still as firm as ever. It's just that the Aozaki family's magic doesn't require any talent for magic. Even if you perform well in magic, if you can't adapt to magic, then it's useless. My sister didn't understand this at all, so she excessively responded to my grandfather's request and showed off her amazing talent for magic. In the end, she was abandoned by my grandfather. At this point, Aozaki Ayoko stopped her explanation, her eyes fluctuating with emotions that outsiders couldn't understand. Was it sympathy and pity for her sister's final fate? Or was it anger for her grandfather's ruthless abandonment of her sister? No one knew about this, not even Noah and Yuju, who were with Aozaki Ayoko all the time. However, according to Ayoko's explanation, Noah understood the relationship between Ayoko Ayoko and Ayoko Ayoko. Aozaki Orange's talent in magic was amazing, but no matter how good her talent in magic was, it had nothing to do with the Aozaki family. After all, the purpose of a magician's research was to reach the origin, while the Aozaki family already possessed magic that could reach the origin, so there was no need for them to research any more magic, as long as they could inherit the magic. Therefore, no matter how outstanding or even monstrous Aochi Orange's magic talent was, if she only had magic, she would never be able to enter her grandfather's eyes. In the end, it seemed that Ayoko Aozaki was more suitable for the purpose of inheriting magic. As a result, Aozaki Ayoko was abandoned by the previous Aozaki family's magic envoy, while Aozaki Ayoko inherited the Aozaki family's magic and became the manager of Sano City's spirit vein. And now Aozaki Orange had returned. Sister didn't come back for revenge, nor did she come back to teach her grandfather a lesson for abandoning her a lesson, nor did she come back to take back what once belonged to her. Aozaki Ayoko asserted. Sister only came here as a magician who has dedicated her life to magic, to seize the magic that can reach the origin. Hearing Aozaki Ayoko's words, Noah and Yuju both became silent, because they both understood that Aozaki Ayoko's words were probably the most correct. This was the so-called magician. They didn't have the moral standards of a human, nor did they have self-restraint. As long as they could reach the origin, They would try any method, use any means to obtain it. Compared to the ultimate goal of a magician's life, hatred, ethics, and all human emotions had to be put behind. This was the ideal requirement of a magician. Noah didn't know how many magicians in this world could reach this ideal state that he disdained. But in Aozaki Aoko's eyes, Aozaki Orange was definitely that kind of existence. I should have guessed it was that idiot sister, Aozaki Aoko said while gnashing her teeth. Whether it was that doll that looked like me last time or seizing Sano City's spiritual vein, they were all just tricks that idiot sister used to annoy me. She is such a capricious person. Sorry, I can't agree with your point of view this time. Noah spread his hands. That doll might have been used to annoy you, but your sister most likely wanted to weaken you and Yoju's strength by attacking Sano City's barrier. After all, you and Yuju can both obtain the support of Sano City's spiritual vein. If this path was cut off, she would have more confidence in seizing the magic on your body. If she wanted to have more confidence in seizing the magic on my body, then why didn't she make a move on me 2 years ago when I inherited the magic? At that time, she would have been 100% confident, right? Aozaki Aoko retorted, her tone full of anger. My sister is such a person. Compared to the process, she cares more about the results. Even if the results are not the same, as long as she can make me angry, she will do anything to achieve her goal. Are all magicians such awkward people? Noah couldn't help but say this. Aozaki Aoko rolled her eyes in response. Don't compare me to Yuju. Yuju is the one who is really awkward. No matter what Orange's motive was for attacking Sano City's barrier, it is certain that she is an enemy. There is no need to speculate about her motives and thoughts. Yuju stopped Noah and Aozaki Aoko from speculating. Her tone was reproachful for Aozaki Aoko's words. She then looked at Noah. Why did Orange ask you to go out? She asked a few questions. Noah frowned and said thoughtfully. But I feel that Aozaki's sister only cares about the last question. Originally, Noah thought that Aozaki Aoko wanted to test him through the conversation to get a clue about his identity and the reason for the mutation of Bio the Golden Wolf. But if Aozaki Aoko was really like what she said, only caring about the results and not the value of the process, then Aozaki Aoko wouldn't care about Noah's identity and the reason for the mutation of Bio the Golden Wolf that had nothing to do with magic. Therefore, Noah felt that Aozaki only cared about one question. Thinking of this, Noah couldn't help but laugh. He glanced at Aozaki Aoko who was sitting beside him. I feel that your sister only cares about whether I belong to you or not. Huh. Ozaki Aoko was stunned. Even Yuju was stunned. Your sister seems to be very interested in me. Noah shrugged and said helplessly. Especially after knowing that I kissed you. She seems to think that I have a special relationship with you and that I belong to you. What? Ozaki Aoko exclaimed. She was so embarrassed that she became angry. Why did you tell her that? Noah looked at Aozaki Aoko strangely. Is that something that can't be said? Isn't that a given? Aozaki Aoko was angry. Who would tell that kind of thing to others? I'm more concerned about Aozaki Aoko's reaction. Noah ignored Aozaki Aoko's anger and looked at Yuju in confusion. I feel that Aozaki Aoko treated me as a dispensable existence until she found out that I kissed her sister. What's the reason? Yuju stared at Noah and said in a displeased tone. Because Aoko treats you as her belonging. That girl has liked to steal my things since she was young. Aozaki Aoko said with hatred. She's so annoying. In other words, your sister asked me if I belong to you because if the answer was yes, she would want to steal me. Noah didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She's really an awkward girl. Aozaki Aoko and Yuju looked at Noah with displeasure. They seemed to be in a bad mood. Of course, only Aozaki Aoko and Yuju knew why they were in a bad mood. Noah was in a good mood. Very well, I'll tell her who's the main character of this battle. Chapter 334. Kacha. The door on the east side of the hall on the first floor that led to the living room was gently opened. Soft moonlight shone down from the glass skylight at the top, bathing Noah as he walked into the cold hall. Raising his head, Noah looked at the bright moon hanging high in the clear night sky under the soft moonlight from outside the glass skylight, and sighed. Although he seemed calm and strong when he was discussing the matter of Ayoko and Yuju in the living room, only Noah knew that after knowing about the matter of Ayoko, his mood became quite irritable. The reason for his irritation was very simple. It was because of the battle between the two sisters, Ayoko and Ayoko. From Noah's point of view, he really couldn't understand why Aozaki Ayoko and Aozaki Ayoko, who were biological sisters, would fight each other. Was it because someone had committed a heinous crime? Was it because someone had done something wrong? Was it because someone had forced them? Was it because someone had threatened them? None of them. It was all of their own accord. As if it was natural, Ayoko had attacked the barrier of Sano City, and also issued a challenge to her own sister. As if it was only natural, Ayoko was not surprised that her own sister would make a move against her. She was even ready to fight. Why could the two sisters take all of this for granted? This was the reason why Noah could not understand. Of course, from an objective point of view, the battle between Ayoko and Ayoko seemed to be natural. There was only one magic in the Ayoko family. In order to obtain this one inheritance, Ayoko and Ayoko had to fight each other. In this world, it was a tragedy for a magician family to have two descendants in the same generation. If one was talented and the other was incompetent, it would be fine, but if both sides were very talented, then it would be troublesome. Because there was only one magic engraving. Around the magic engraving, the descendants of the same generation in the same magic family would fight and kill each other, leaving only one to inherit the research topic left by the ancestors. This was not a rare example in the entire magic world. From the point of view of other magicians, the battle between Ayoko and Ayoko was really natural, and there was nothing strange about it. If one day, Noah's grandfather Makarov told Noah that he had a powerful magic that could rule the world, but only one of the brothers, Noah and Laxus, could inherit it, then they would have to fight to leave only one person. Then, with Laxus's twisted character, he would not hesitate to agree. However, if Mira and Lisanna were to face the same situation, Mira would give up the chance without hesitation and give it to Lisanna, and Lisanna would give it to Mira as well. She would never fight her family for power. Ayoko and Ayoko were sisters. Since the two of them had accepted the result of this battle as a matter of course, could it be that the two of them also had twisted personalities? Probably not. Or did these two sisters family? Noah didn't know. But to Noah, as a family member, it was too stupid to fight for so-called magic. Noah could kill anyone for the sake of his family in fairy tale, but he would never kill his family in fairy tale. No matter which world's fairy tale it was, Noah had always had a reason to fight with others for his family, but there was no possibility of him fighting with his family for that necessary reason. This was Noah. He believed that almost all the members of fairy tale in the two worlds that Noah was in would be the same as Noah. Therefore, from Noah's point of view, no matter what the reason was, the killing between family members was inexplicable. Even if there was a reason, 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 even if there was a reason in his heart, even if there was a reason, 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 even if there was a reason infamily, wasn't the most important thing. Sigh. The anxious Noah could only sigh in the end. At this time, a familiar voice sounded behind Noah. It's not like you to hide here and sigh. After saying this, Ayoko, who was wearing casual clothes, came out from the living room and came to Noah's side. She raised her head and, like Noah, looked at the night sky outside the glass skylight. Her voice seemed to come from a distant place and drilled into Noah's ears. Don't be like Jing Shikuan or I will look down on you. You think too much. Noah responded with a calm face. I'm just homesick. Ayoko was silent. She didn't know if it was because she sensed Noah's thoughts from Noah's words, or because she was also homesick and even thought of her sister who was about to fight. Ayoko said, It's not like you. It's just that you don't know. I'm a good man who really loves his family. Noah retracted his gaze from outside the glass skylight and glanced sideways at Ayoko's beautiful face under the moonlight. He opened his mouth and said, "Don't worry, Ayoko. Don't you miss your family?" "I'm not a child, I won't have such fragile thoughts." Ayoko replied without hesitation. "It's good to remember the past, but if you keep remembering it, you will become cowardly. I won't allow myself to become too cowardly. If you're too tense, be careful not to break yourself," Noah said with admiration and mockery. "Or for you, family is the representation of cowardice? It should be the opposite, right?" Ayoko didn't know if she was touched by Noah's words, but her pale eyes flickered, and she couldn't help but speak. "Because I can only store all the cowardice in my heart at home, so when I'm outside I can't think about it." "You're so strong." Noah smiled bitterly. "No wonder you can abandon everything in the past and step into a nightmarish world." Before the age of 15, Ayoko was just an ordinary person who grew up. Just like the other students in the school, Ayoko was originally just an ordinary person. The only difference was that she had an extraordinary family with an extraordinary elder sister and grandfather. However, at the age of 15, Ayoko resolutely accepted the inheritance of the Ayoko family. She abandoned her past life, abandoned her past dreams, abandoned her past values, and even abandoned her past identity as a human. She was born as an inhuman being with contradictions. From the perspective of an ordinary person, the path of the magician was filled with blood and slaughter. It was a path that was filled with pain. No matter who it was, when faced with such a monstrous world, their only thought was to escape. But Ayoko endured it all. At that time she was still an ordinary person. Wasn't that enough for Noah to praise her for being strong? "I just don't allow myself to escape." Ayoko's strong and powerful voice echoed in the surroundings. "Since it's an unavoidable fate, then I'll bear it. Before the day comes when I can't stand it and collapse, I'll walk through it beautifully." With that, Ayoko turned around and looked directly at Noah with strong emotions in her eyes, as if she wanted to see through Noah's heart. "What about you? If it were you, what would you choose? Would you escape?" "Me." Noah smiled, and his smile was unusually strong. "I don't care about *T fate." Noah turned his back, and his voice echoed throughout the manor. "If the so-called fate is to fight with family, friends, and lovers, then I'll shatter this fate, break this fate, and make it so afraid that it will never be able to get close to me." With that, Noah lifted his feet and walked up to the second floor. Ayoko looked at Noah's gradually disappearing back and did not speak for a long time. After a long time, she whispered softly, "You're so gentle." Whether it was the strong person who stayed in place or the gentle person who left, neither of them noticed. In the corridor of the living room, an awkward person was standing in the shadows, quietly listening to the conversation between the two people living together. Chapter 335. The next morning. "I'm full." After enjoying a peaceful breakfast in the sunroom, Shinji Kuzukajuro had a satisfied expression on his face, as he cleaned up all the tableware that belonged to him. "Don't you want to eat more?" Noah, who was sitting opposite Shinji Kuzukajuro, leisurely gnawed on a piece of bread as he glanced at Shinji Kuzukajuro. "Aochi and Yuju are not here, so this time no one will think that you are an eyesore. Also, there's still a long time before school starts, you don't have to rush, right?" "It's okay, I'm full." Shinji Kuzukajuro showed a sincere smile, which was an undisguised emotion that ordinary people couldn't show. "I still have a newspaper delivery job, so I have to go out first." After that, Shinji Kuzukajuro looked at Noah in confusion. "Aochi and Miss Kanoji, why are they so late today?" Hearing this, Noah shrugged and didn't immediately answer. Normally, unless they had stayed up late the night before to do some work, Ayoko and Yuazu would have already woken up. But today, Aochi and Yuju didn't come to the sunroom at a fixed time. Noah knew that Aochi and Yuju didn't stay up late to do any work last night, but went to bed early. And this morning, Noah vaguely heard a strange sound in the mansion before he got up. Therefore, Noah guessed that Ayoko Aozaki and Yuju were not still sleeping in bed, but had woken up early in the morning. As for why they woke up so early, the reason was easy to guess. Aochi and Yuju probably knew that their opponent was Aochi-chan, so they more or less had their own ideas, so they woke up early in the morning. At this time, Aochi and Yuju should be doing something to deal with Aochi-chung. The two probably finished their breakfast early, so it was useless to worry. Thinking of this, Noah said to Shinji Kuzukajuro, "A lot of things will happen recently, Shinji. If you have nothing to do, come back early, don't wander outside, okay?" Shizuka Kusanagi tilted his head with a puzzled expression before nodding. "Although I don't know what happened, I'll come back as soon as I'm done." "That's fine." Noah spread his hands and continued to eat his bread. Seeing that Noah had no intention of answering his previous question, Shizuchi Kusanagi tactfully put away the tableware in front of him and stood up. "Are you still going to ask for leave from Aochi today? I guess he won't be able to go to school for a while." Noah waved at Shizuka Kuzukajuru. "Anyway, that perfectionist Aochi must have asked for leave in advance, and she must have dragged me along without my consent. I'll just stay in the mansion today. Then I'll go out first." Shizuka Kusanagi turned around and left the sunroom without any hesitation. Looking at the back of Shizuchi Kusanagi, Noah fell into deep thought. Looks like Jingshi isn't Aochi Orange's backup plan. Now Sanyo City's barrier only had one fulcrum left. If this fulcrum was taken, Sanyo City's ley line would officially be declared ownerless, and Aochi Ayoko and Yuju would leave with nothing. However, Aochi Orange wouldn't be stupid enough to recklessly make a move on the only remaining fulcrum. If Shizuchi Kusanagi was really one of Aochi Orange's people, in order to let the situation develop and not continue to be in a stalemate, Aochi Orange would definitely let Shizuchi Kusanagi do everything possible in the enemy's base camp. However, until now, Shizuchi Kusanagi still hadn't made any moves, and Yoju's familiar who was in charge of monitoring Shizuchi Kusanagi also didn't report anything strange, so the suspicion of Shizuchi Kusanagi being an accomplice of the enemy was greatly reduced. No matter what, this time the enemy isn't easy to deal with is a fact. Noah couldn't help but recall the last time he fought with Golden Wolf Bio, and couldn't help but sigh. "I have to make some preparations." After saying that, Noah sped up his eating speed. After finishing his breakfast, Noah directly returned to his room, closed the door tightly, took off his shoes, sat on his bed, and pressed his hand on his chest. Blazing Fong. The incantation to summon the soul clearly echoed. Wong. A pure white geometric pattern suddenly emerged from Noah's chest. Pung. A deep blue flame rose from the star pattern, and the flame instantly illuminated Noah's surroundings, as if a gust of wind was swirling. Not long after, two pitch-black weapons with a pure white pattern emerged from the blue flame and fell down. Knight's sword and revolver. After about a month or so, the two blaze fangs that had always existed in Noah's soul were finally summoned once again. Looking at the two blaze that belonged to him, Noah couldn't help but smile. He placed the knight's sword and revolver in front of him, and after hesitating for a moment, he picked up his knight's sword. Wong! The knight's sword that was raised in front of Noah seemed to greet Noah. Its whole body trembled, and the pure white pattern on the pitch-black sword flashed with a cold luster. Looking at his beloved sword in front of him, Noah's mind was filled with exquisite runes. That was all the rune magic that Noah had learned up until now. Suddenly, one by one, the runes flashed in Noah's mind like a digital program on a sophisticated computer screen, causing Noah's dark eyes to shine. In the next moment, Noah raised one of his hands and extended a finger. The magic in his body was released from the limited seal, and flowed through Noah's body, and finally gathered at Noah's finger. Immediately, Noah pointed his finger at the knight's sword, and began to draw a flickering rune. Noah was strengthening his blaze. In Norse legends, rune was originally engraved on tools and props, and was used for divination or to pray for peace. Later, people began to engrave rune on their own weapons, borrowing the power of rune to strengthen their weapons, and also strengthen their own fighting power, and used it on the battlefield. And in this world, magicians who were proficient in rune would often engrave rune on their magic attire to strengthen their magic attire. In the Magic Association, some magicians who were proficient in fighting would even engrave rune on their own bodies, making it in existence similar to a weapon. Noah was just doing the same thing. In the last confrontation, the Golden Wolf Bio and Noah, who had released all of their power and used the full power of Crush, were evenly matched. From this, it could be seen that the Golden Wolf Bio's strength was not inferior to Noah's. However, in the last battle, Noah did not use blaze. In order to meet the inevitable battle, Noah needed to make some preparations. Strengthening blaze was equivalent to strengthening Noah's fighting power. Therefore, this was absolutely necessary. In this situation, first, Noah engraved a whole row of runes on the body of the knight's sword. It was the hardening rune. In the magic association, there was no lack of good fighters who used rune magic as a fighting method. And the hardening rune was definitely the most suitable rune for strengthening weapons, and the most suitable rune for close combat. It could make a weapon harder and harder to destroy, and it could also add strength to the attack. This was not difficult to understand. If a piece of cloth was made as hard as steel, then when this cloth was smashed to the ground, it would also create a hole. The same principle. Adding the hardening rune on a weapon would not only make the weapon harder, but also make the weapon heavier. Strength and defense were not neglected, making hardening one of the most commonly used runes in close combat. After engraving a whole row of hardening runes on the knight's sword, Noah engraved another 2 rows of runes on the body of the sword. Those were the sharpness and acceleration runes. Chapter 336. The difference between enhancement magic and rune magic was that one was essence, and the other was knowledge. If a magician was constantly improving his strengthening magic trick, then the degree of enhancement he could get when using strengthening magic trick would increase accordingly. For example, if a magician used enhancement magic to strengthen his fist, then as the magician improved his enhancement magic, the strength of the strengthened fist would also increase accordingly. But rune magic was different. Compared to the enhanced magic that could become stronger as the user progressed, the improvement of the rune magic was mainly reflected in the 2 aspects of whether the user could use it faster and whether the user could master more runes. If a magician's rune magic improved, then the magician's speed of writing runes would also increase, and the number of runes he could grasp would also increase. Therefore, if there was only one rune, then its effect was actually very limited. For example, the improvement of enhancement magic allowed the original 1 power to continuously increase until it reached 2, 3, 4, and even 10. On the other hand, there was a limit to the power of a single rune in the rune magic. If it was 1, then no matter how high or how fast the user's magic skills improved, the power of the rune would still be 1. However, rune magic could be stacked. For example, hardening rune. A single rune could only display the power of 1. If 10 of these runes were engraved, then even if the power of hardening did not reach 10, it could still reach 5. Therefore, Noah engraved hardening, sharpening, and acceleration runes on the knight's sword in 3 rows that covered the entire blade. These 3 rows of runes could allow Noah's knight's sword to display its full power. Among them, the hardening rune had the greatest effect. After all, the hardening runes could not only make the knight's sword heavier, but also indirectly increase its attack power. This row of hardening runes could also make Noah's knight's sword extremely sturdy. It must be known that the blaze was the soul itself. If the blaze was destroyed, it would be equivalent to the soul being shattered once. The owner of the blaze would suffer an unimaginable blow because of this. At the very least, they would be unconscious for an entire day before waking up. Noah's blaze was rather special. It was born from a weapon that originally existed and became a part of his soul. If the blaze was destroyed, then only a part of Noah's soul would be destroyed, but it would still cause a certain amount of mental damage. Now that there was a whole row of hardening, plus the original strength of the knight's sword and Noah's magic buff, it was estimated that even if the golden wolf bio was 10 times or even 100 times stronger, he would not be able to cause a single crack on the knight's sword. As for the sharpening rune, its effect was to make Noah's knight's sword even sharper. It was believed that now Noah's knight's sword would not be able to cut through anything. As for the haste rune, it did not increase Noah's speed, but increased the speed at which Noah swung his sword. With this whole row of haste runes, Noah's swinging sword speed would probably reach an extremely frightening level. After carving these 3 rows of runes, Noah carved the last rune on the hilt of the knight's sword, forever firm. All the runes carved on the knight's sword were like miniature suns, emitting a blinding light that immediately disappeared into the knight's sword. Wung wung. The knight's sword that was emitting a blinding light trembled. After a long time, it gradually dimmed and stopped. In the next second, the knight's sword that was imprinted in Noah's eyes had already changed. The runes that were originally flickering like fireflies on the body of the knight's sword had all disappeared. In their place, the knight's sword had the same runes engraved on it. It was as if the runes were originally engraved on the knight's sword. They were surrounded by the rippling pure white lines on the sword, constantly displaying their effects. This was the Forever Firm rune. Holding the knight's sword that was engraved with runes on the sword body and hilt, Noah felt the power on it. His tense face finally relaxed. The pitch-black knight's sword turned into a blue flame, disappeared, and returned to Noah's body. After this experience, the time that Noah needed to strengthen the revolver was greatly reduced. On the body of the revolver, Noah also engraved the hardening rune, which made the revolver even harder. He also engraved the acceleration rune, which greatly increased the speed of the revolver in all aspects. However, the revolver did not need the sharpness rune. Thus, Noah engraved a new row of runes on the revolver. Vitality. This was a very interesting rune. It was similar to the magic enhancement rune. When used on the human body, it could increase the endurance and physical strength of the person. When used on a light bulb, it could make the light bulb brighter. It was similar to the magic enhancement rune. With the vitality rune, the revolver's firepower would become more intense. If the revolver's true power was released, the firepower would be even more intense. In this way, if Noah used the knight's sword and the revolver, his strength would definitely increase by a level. In addition, with the protection of Avalon, Noah did not need to be afraid of the Golden Wolf Bio. The world fragment inside the Golden Wolf Bio's body was something that Noah was determined to obtain. Bang! The moment Noah walked out of his room, an astonishing loud noise and a burst of dazzling phosphorescent light suddenly exploded without warning, startling Noah. What happened? Noah quickly went to the window in the corridor, opened the window and looked outside. He saw that in the manor's courtyard, a burst of thick smoke rose up as if there was a fire somewhere. In front of the thick smoke, Ayoko was standing there with one hand raised, pointing in the direction of the rising smoke. On her raised hand, the flickering light from the magic engraving was still fluctuating. Obviously, this was Ayoko's doing. Not far from the courtyard, Yuju was also there. Quietly looking at the rising smoke in front of Ayoko, Yuju could faintly feel that there seemed to be a hole in the ground inside, which made Yuju emit a sense of unhappiness. Even Noah, who was upstairs, could feel it. What the hell are these two girls doing? Noah raised his eyebrows, closed the window again and walked downstairs. When Noah arrived at the courtyard, the thick smoke had already dissipated, and as expected, there was a hole left in the ground. Ayoko and Yuju were facing each other. One face full of awkwardness, the other face was still emotionless, but her eyes were surging with obvious dissatisfaction. Noah, who opened the door, was surprised. "What are you doing?" Hearing Noah's voice, Ayoko and Yuju turned their heads at the same time and looked at him. As you can see, the awkwardness on Ayoko's face disappeared, and she casually replied while flicking her waist-length hair. "I'm practicing. Practicing." Noah was startled at first, then immediately understood. "You also know how to cram at the last minute?" Ayoko looked like she wanted to refute, but no words came out. She could only snort and turn her head. The battle with Ayoko could come at any time. Ayoko didn't say it on the surface, but in her heart, she was more or less nervous. It was not strange that she wanted to seize the time to improve her strength. I should have known that Ayoko's talent in destruction is unparalleled. Yuju took a deep breath and glanced at Ayoko. Agreeing to let her practice in the courtyard was the most unwise decision I made. Although Yoju's most treasured place was the mansion, this courtyard was obviously in the category of treasures. After being wantonly destroyed by Ayoko, Yuju didn't directly attack, which was something to be happy about. After all this time, you got up early in the morning to practice? Noah didn't know whether to laugh or cry. However, Ayoko and Yuju both fell silent. Chapter 337. As magicians, both Ayoko and Yuju were aware of this path that was destined to be full of blood and slaughter. Ayoko, who had only 2 years of experience as a magician, would be fine. If one day she had to die in someone's hands, she would definitely not feel any regret. This was because when she embarked on the path of a magician, she was prepared to die at any time. Even Ayoko was like this, let alone the pure-blooded witch who was destined to embark on the path of a magician from birth. Kanoji Yuju was even more so. To be honest, facing an invincible opponent who could kill them at any time, Ayoko and Yuju did not feel strange at all, nor did they feel afraid. If it was in the past, knowing that their opponent this time was Aozaki Orange and that she had a fantasy breed under her command, Aozaki and Yuju wouldn't have rushed over anxiously to do something so meaningless as to increase their chances of winning. The two girls were more likely to relax leisurely as if they had seen through life and death, waiting for the day of the final battle to arrive. But this time both Ayoko and Yuazu woke up early in the morning, and did something that they thought was meaningless in the past. This wasn't because Ayoko and Yuju were nervous or afraid. Instead, it was because the two of them had the strange thought of not wanting to die. That was extremely normal for ordinary people, but extremely strange for magicians. Why was this happening? Ayoko and Yuju could not explain it clearly. However, the two girls knew that it was all because of the influence of the unfathomable man who lived with them. It was only because this idea came to Noah last night after he finished talking with Ayoko Aozaki. Was it not because of Noah's influence? Even Ayoko and Yuju did not believe it. Haven't you thought that you will die? Ayoko couldn't help but say this to Noah. Her pale eyes stared at Noah with a burning gaze. Don't forget, your opponent is a fantasy breed. You don't know what kind of ability it has, so Avalon might not be able to protect you. Hearing this, Noah was stunned. However, when he saw the strange emotions in Ayoko's eyes, he looked into her eyes and said unhurriedly, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Even though I have Avalon, I'm not arrogant enough to think that I'll be safe with it. Then aren't you afraid? Ayoko Aozaki asked aggressively. Every time you fight with an enemy, aren't you afraid that you will lose or die? Can I not fight because I am afraid of losing or dying? Noah asked in return. That's not what you'd think. I don't think so. I am just curious why you don't think so. Ayoko stared at Noah. You said that Chang's familiar had something you wanted, and that you would fight for it even if you had to die, didn't you? Is this the reason for you to fight? It is impossible for Orange and me to compromise. We have to fight. Yuju is the manager of the spirit vein in Sano City, so she has a reason to fight. Ayoko's voice was surprisingly cold. If the thing on Orange's familiar isn't valuable enough for you to risk your life to obtain, then you should withdraw from this battle. As Ayoko's words spread, the atmosphere suddenly became heavy. Yuju frowned slightly but did not say anything. Even though she knew that if Noah withdrew, she would definitely die without any means to deal with a fantasy breed. But Yuju did not have any objections to Ayoko's suggestion. Seeing Ayoko and Yuju's behavior, it was impossible for Noah not to be angry. The reason for fighting? Even if it wasn't for the world fragment, just by the fact that the three of them lived under the same roof for a month or so, and the fact that they fought side by side for the past month as companions, how could Noah watch Ayoko and Yuju die in vain? Noah could even save someone like Shizuka Kusajikuro, whom he had only seen 2 or 3 times, for the sake of feeling refreshed. He was even willing to fight against the Magic Association. Now, for the sake of Ayoko Aochi and Yuju, could Noah not fight against the existence at the top of the fantasy breed? Noah had said that he would only do what he liked. If Ayoko Aozaki and Yuazu were people like Wenbing Yongli that he hated, Noah would definitely not be so free as to be a saint. However, after a month of living together, Noah still had some feelings for Ayoko and Yuju. As the reason for fighting, this was enough. Of course, if he said this reason, Ayoko and Yuju, who were not very emotional, would definitely not agree. However, what Noah needed was not approval. What's the reason? Noah suddenly asked. What's the reason for persuading me to withdraw from the battle? Ayoko Aozaki fell silent. At this time, Yuju answered Noah's question. Don't you still have a family? Noah suddenly realized. So that's why. Ayoko and Yuju persuaded Noah to withdraw from the battle, because Noah's words last night had touched the two girls. Ayoko Aozaki and Yuju were both prepared to die for this the moment they stepped onto the path of magicians. Ayoko's family didn't object to Ayoko's choice, so they must have been prepared for it, right? Needless to say, Yuju's parents had already passed away, so no one would worry about her. However, Noah was different. If Noah died, there would be a lot of people crying for Noah. Because Noah was so gentle and resolute when he mentioned family last night, Ayoko and Yuju both understood that Noah was different from them and had a very important bond. To put it simply, both Ayoko and Yuju were soft-hearted. Alas! Noah sighed, closed his eyes, and after a while opened his eyes. This is really not like you. Ayoko and Yuju were stunned at the same time. I said, I'm not arrogant enough to think that I'm absolutely safe, but just like Ayoko said, I didn't think that I would lose or die. Noah said calmly, if you say that I don't have enough reasons to fight, then I have a lot of reasons to not lose, and not to die. Then, Ayoko seemed to want to say something, but she was interrupted by Noah. However, this is definitely not an excuse to avoid the battle. Noah looked straight at Ayoko Aozaki. I believe that if it were you, you would make the same decision as me, because you will never allow yourself to escape. Ayoko was speechless. Your sister once asked me if I was your possession. Noah suddenly laughed. At that time I told her that even if I was, it was because you were my possession. Who's your property? Ayoko yelled, but Noah ignored her. If you really want a reasonable reason to fight, then I'll tell you now. Noah glanced at Ayoko Aoki, then glanced at Yuju and then smiled. I don't mind treating you as my possession, and then fighting for you. Whether it was Ayoko or Yuju, they were both people with strong self-esteem. If it was any other time, if anyone declared that they were his possession in front of these two girls, that person would definitely die a horrible death. But this time Ayoko and Yuju looked at Noah in a daze, and did not respond for a long time. Looking into Noah's dark and deep eyes, Yuju lowered her head. After a while she opened her red lips. This morning there was a magical reaction at the position of the last fulcrum. Noah's pupils contracted. That's a letter of challenge from Chung, Yuju said in an emotionless voice. Chung is even more impatient than we thought. Is that why you suddenly asked such a question at this time? Noah smiled bitterly and raised his head. When? Tonight. Ayoko's voice became strong and firm again, full of determination. Tonight it's the final battle. With this sentence as the conclusion, the man and the two girls in the courtyard fell into silence at the same time. They did not speak anymore, and just looked at the bright sky above their heads, silently counting down. Chapter 338. When dusk came, the mansion lit up with lights that only appeared at night, bathing the slightly dim corner of the courtyard in the light. The light mixed with the brilliance of the setting sun was unusually dazzling. I'm back. Shinji Kusajikuro walked into the living room with a smile as usual, as if he had really returned to his own home. His face had a reassuring smile, making people involuntarily let down their guard. At this time Noah, Ayoko Aozaki, and Yuju were all gathered on the sofa in the living room. Of course, the three of them were just waiting for the arrival of the night. There was no need to discuss countermeasures, because the countermeasures had already been discussed at the beginning. Noah would deal with the Golden Wolf Bio. Aozaki Orange would deal with Ayoko Aozaki and Yuju. It was such a simple countermeasure. Other than that, there was no need for any other countermeasures. Looking at Shinji Kusajikuro, who walked into the living room with a sincere smile and greeted everyone, Noah really admired him. An ordinary person in a circle full of monsters that had the power to pinch him to death in an instant. Not only could he die at any time, but he also had to be forced to live under the same roof with these terrible existences. Under such circumstances, if an ordinary person with common sense was in this situation, even if they were not scared to death or collapsed, they would still live in fear and trepidation every day. But Shinji Kusajikuro seemed to really not care about his life being taken away at any time. Every day, he went in and out of the mansion with a clear conscience. He never thought of running away, never worried, and every time he came back, he would wear a smile as if he had really returned home. How could Noah not admire such a temperament? Unfortunately for Shinji Kusajikuro, this kind of life had come to an end. Shinji, classmate Ayoko Aozaki, who was sitting next to Noah, sat cross-legged on the sofa in a very natural posture and glanced at Shinji Kusajikuro. Tonight, you are not allowed to go anywhere. Shinji Kusajikuro was stunned. But I have to work at night. Ask for leave. Ayoko said to Shizuka Kusanagi in an unquestionable tone with a serious face. Only tonight you are not allowed to go anywhere. This is not asking for your opinion, but our arrangement for you. You have no right to object. Shizuo Kusanagi was completely stunned. With Shizuka Kusakuko's intellect, he naturally couldn't understand why Ayoko would make such a decision. However, this decision was inevitable. This was because tonight was the final battle between Noa Ayoko Aochi and Yuju against Aochi Chang. If there were no accidents, the month-long tug-of-war would end tonight. Then the fate of Shizuchi Kusajuru was decided. With Noah's extraordinary memory and comprehension, he had already memorized all the Rooney's magic tricks in Yuju's library. The only thing he lacked was practice. Of course, this included the phrase, forgetful like a nun. Shizuchi Kusajuru was originally suspected of being Aochi Chang's accomplice, so he was arranged by Noa Ayoko Aochi and Yuju to stay in the manor house in the form of surveillance. As long as there was a winner tonight, then it didn't matter if Shizuchi Kusajuru was Aochi Chang's accomplice or not. If Ayoko Aochi and Yuju came back alive, then there was no reason for him to stay. Therefore, once tonight's victory was decided, Shizuchi Kusajuru's memory of magic would be erased, and he would return to the life of an ordinary person. Of course, Shizuchi Kusajuru was still suspected of not being Aochi Chang's accomplice. In order to prevent Shizuchi Kusajuru from doing anything if he was really Aochi Chang's accomplice, Ayoko Aochi and Yuju couldn't let Shizuchi Kusajuru wander around at this important time of the final battle. Shizuchi, tonight you stay in your room. Noah sighed slightly. I will engrave an imprisonment rune in your room. That rune will last until morning. Noah turned his head and looked at Shizuchi Kusajuru. If we can come back before tomorrow morning, I will let you out and erase your memory. If we can't come back, then you can do whatever you want. Except for your room, you are not allowed to go anywhere else. Yuju said coldly to Shizuchi Kusajuru. Even if the imprisonment magic disappears tomorrow morning, if you wander around my house, there are many ways to destroy you. This time, no matter how stupid Shizuchi Kusajuru was, he knew that today was the last day he could stay here. Shizuchi Kusajuru had only lived here for less than 2 weeks, so naturally, he didn't have any feelings for this place. Every day, because Ayoko Aochi and Yuju didn't like him, he didn't communicate with anyone except for Noah. Therefore, knowing that he was about to be allowed to leave the mansion, Shizuchi Kusajuru nodded obediently without any joy or sadness. I understand. I will ask for leave from work at night, and I won't come out of my room until dawn. Even if I come out, I will go directly to my original place. Very good. Ayoko Aochi nodded with satisfaction, and said to Shizuchi Kusajuru in a rare friendly manner. Then you go take a shower first. Okay. Shizuchi Kusajuru nodded quickly, turned around and left the living room. Should I say as expected of him? Noah touched his nose. If an ordinary person knows that their memory will be erased, they will have some resistance no matter how unwilling they are. But Shizuchi doesn't seem to care at all. As expected, this person is incompatible with ordinary people. He has no sense of self at all, even his sense of existence is extremely weak. Ayoko Aochi said with pity and disgust. I hate this kind of person the most. I really don't get along with him. Anyway, Shizuchi's matter is arranged like this. Noah looked up and looked at Ayoko Aochi and Yuju. I haven't asked you before, but do you have a chance of winning against Aochi? I can only rely on the magic recorded in the Aochi family's magic seal, and I don't know how to use magic. Ayoko Aochi pouted unhappily. My sister knows the magic of the Aochi family very well. If I were to go against her, I only have a 10% chance of winning. 10%? Noah smiled. You only learn magic for 2 years, and you dare to say that you have a 10% chance of winning against my sister who has learned magic since young and has amazing talent? There is no such thing as absolute in a magic battle. Ayoko Aochi's voice was emotionless, there was only determination. Even if there is no chance of winning, I will create a chance of winning. I won't admit defeat in front of that idiot of a sister so easily. What about Yuju? Noah looked at Yuju. How are you compared to Aochi? In fact, Yuju and Aochi had known each other for more than 10 years. Noah didn't know about this until just now. But it wasn't strange. Aochi Orange used to be active in Sano City as the heir of the Aochi family, and Yuju was a pure-blooded witch who had been studying magic in Sano City since she was a child. There was no doubt that the two of them had met when they were young. Speaking of which, Yuju was very similar to Ouchie Orange. Both of them had started learning magic since they were young. One of them was the descendant of a magic user, while the other was a pure-blooded witch. Both of them had outstanding talent in magic. Coupled with their own unique traits, it was hard to say who was stronger. Ching is the same as Qing Zi. Both of them won't admit defeat so easily. Since she's back, she must have prepared a trump card that she's confident of defeating us, Yuju said expressionlessly while holding the book. Originally, I didn't want to get involved in the Aozaki family's affairs, but since Orange chose to attack the barrier of Sanayo City, I have the obligation to eliminate her. No matter what, if I join forces with Ayoko, we won't be weaker than Orange. As she spoke, Yuju stared at Noah. But if you lose, we're all finished. That's for sure. Hearing this, Noah smiled. He smiled so much that his eyes flashed with traces of cold light. You want to kill me? Let's see if that golden wolf can do it. The sky finally darkened. Gotcha. Opening the door of the mansion, Noah, Ouchie, and Yuju walked out and looked in one direction. That was the direction of the last fulcrum. At this time, whether it was Noah, Ouchie, or Yuju, they all chose to remain silent. They lifted their feet and silently walked out. Tonight was destined to be a long night. Chapter 339. Tonight, a thick layer of dark clouds covered the entire sky of Sanayo City, blocking all light sources. Compared to the past, Sanayo City's night was undoubtedly darker. It was as if they already knew that today would not be too ordinary, and there was a sense of tension everywhere. If it was a normal person without the guidance of streetlights or flashlights, they would definitely not be able to see the road at night. It would not be an exaggeration to say that it was pitch black. However, such a night was no obstacle for Noah. When he was in the world of the Black Bullet, Noah had been strengthened many times by the virus of the protozoa. In these viruses, there was also the DNA of species with extremely strong night vision. With the strengthening of the DNA of these species with extremely strong night vision, no matter how dark the night was, it would not be an obstacle for Noah. Ayoko Aozaki and Yuju seemed to have used magic to strengthen their five senses in advance. Their footsteps did not have the slightest intention of stopping as they braved the cold wind and walked on the dark mountain path. At this moment, Noah, Ayoko Aozaki, and Yuju were on a mountain at the edge of Sanayo City. At the top of this mountain, there was the last fulcrum of Sanayo City's spirit vein barrier. Under Yuju's lead, Noah and Ayoko Aozaki passed through many mountain paths, and after about half an hour, they arrived at the top of the mountain. Whoosh! The bone-piercing cold wind mercilessly blew through the somewhat empty mountain top. On the mountain top surrounded by a forest, what appeared in front of Noah, Ayoko Aozaki, and Yuju was a stone ground full of small holes and rocks. Roar! Almost at the same moment Noah's group of three appeared in the open space. An unusually high-pitched, elegant, and violent roar that made one's heart palpitate resounded through the night sky. Ayoko Aozaki and Yuju, who heard this roar, immediately stiffened and involuntarily trembled slightly. This was not fear. This was not fear. This was an instinct that every life form would show when they encountered a higher-level life form. Therefore, this was a tribute to the almost perfect life form, and also a sign that the body was telling its master that it was not a match. Only Noah seemed to have been provoked after hearing the resounding, elegant, and violent roar. A cold light flashed across his eyes. Wong! In an instant, all the power under the restricted state was released, filling Noah's entire body. This caused Noah's entire body to emit an extremely terrifying aura, silently enveloping all directions. That resounding, elegant, and violent roar came to an abrupt halt. Life forms would instinctively tremble when encountering higher life forms. Mysteries were useless in the face of higher mysteries. Even if this was the ironclad rule of this world, it was more fragile than anything to Noah. This was because Noah was an existence that truly transcended the world. Regardless of the mystery, Noah would not lose to any existence in terms of the level of life. Immediately, Noah took a step forward, as if protecting Ayoko and Yuju behind him. His eyes swept across the stone ground in front of him like a torch. It's time to come out, right? The entire place returned to silence. Not long after, Footsteps slowly sounded from the opposite side of the forest. There, a person and a beast slowly walked out, appearing in front of Noah's group. Ayoko clenched her fists as she looked at the tall figure with the golden beast. Her pale eyes became unprecedentedly sharp. Orange. Long time no see, Ayoko. Ayoko, with her short reddish-brown hair swaying, crossed her arms and looked straight into Ayoko's extremely sharp eyes. A slightly cold smile hung on her face. I haven't seen you for a few years. I thought you had some ability, but now it seems that you are worse than I thought. You've disappointed me, Ayoko. You've never been satisfied with anything I've done since I was a child, right? Ayoko responded with a little disdain. It's not strange. You're not the kind of person who would have expectations for others or even for yourself. You're wrong this time, Ayoko. Ouchie suddenly smiled, but there was no trace of a smile in her eyes. The wildness in her eyes even made Ouchie a little afraid. I have high expectations for you. For the Ayoko family's miracle. These words made Ayoko's expression sink slightly. So you're really here for magic? After all, it's something that I've been obsessed with for more than 10 years, and I've paid a lot of price to inherit. At this moment, Ayoko's cold smile became somewhat complicated. That kind of thing, if I'm declared out without even seeing the real thing, you know how unwilling I will be, right? Unfortunately, you're still going to be disappointed. Ayoko responded with a firm tone. You should be able to guess that I can't use magic, right? That's your problem. It has nothing to do with me. Ouchie Orange said those words without leaving a trace that would make anyone feel cold in their heart. Anyway, this is the last battle. Ayoko, if you can use it, then use it. If you can't, then you won't be able to see the sun of Sano City tomorrow. After saying this, Ouchie Orange looked at Yuju and leisurely greeted her. We haven't seen each other for a long time, Yuju. I thought you would choose to stay out of this battle and not interfere. If it's only between you and Ayoko, then I really don't want to interfere. Yuju raised her black eyes. But if you attack the barrier of Sano City, then I have to interfere. Ayoko, you know how stubborn I am with my own things. In other words, my opponents tonight are a half-baked mage and a pure-blooded witch. Ayoko revealed a joyful smile. If not, then it's not interesting. Roar. Perhaps the Golden Wolf Bio was impatient with Ouchie Orange's leisurely greeting the enemy before the battle, so he let out a low growl with a ferocious expression on his face. From the beginning to the end, Golden Wolf Bio's emerald eyes only stared at one person. That person was Noah, who had been silent all this time. Noah just stood there calmly and didn't even look at Golden Wolf Bio. The magic power in his body fluctuated bit by bit like the atmosphere, making Noah's whole body emit a pressure that made people's hearts tighten. Seeing Noah like this, Golden Wolf Bio seemed to be a little anxious. Because of the influence of the world fragment, Golden Wolf Bio had an abnormal obsession with Noah. However, Golden Wolf Bio, who only had the rationality of a wild beast, couldn't tell what this obsession was. This caused him to feel very anxious when he saw Noah. Golden Wolf Bio obviously didn't like this feeling of anxiety, so much so that it drew out the fierceness in Golden Wolf Bio's heart. It made Golden Wolf Bio want to tear Noah into pieces immediately to expel this feeling of anxiety. This was also the reason why the Golden Wolf Bio had become so violent around Ouchie Orange during this period of time. TSK. Ayoko seemed to have also noticed Golden Wolf Bio's abnormal behavior and clenched her teeth. That's why I hate wild dogs that can't communicate. Compared to Aozaki Orange, Aozaki Ayoko and Yuju paid close attention to Bio's every move. Ayoko wasn't the kind of person who cherished things. She even casually squandered an expensive doll. However, Ayoko and Yuju couldn't ignore Golden Wolf Bio's identity as a fantasy breed. For magicians who studied mysteries and miracles, Golden Wolf Bio was definitely an existence worthy of respect and admiration. Therefore, Noah was the only one who maintained his initial calmness among the crowd. Can we start now? You can't wait? Ayoko licked the corner of her mouth flirtatiously. If that's the case, then there's no need to waste time. After saying that, Ayoko sneered. Bio, you can do whatever you want today. I won't stop you. As soon as she finished speaking, almost in the blink of an eye, the sound of something falling to the ground was heard beside Ayoko. Poochie. Immediately after that, the sound of something being pierced rang out. Blood splattered into the sky. Chapter 340. Ouchie Orange only felt a gust of wind blowing from her side. Then a presence appeared beside her, in front of Golden Wolf Bio. Poochie! A tearing sound echoed almost at the same time, bringing with it a burst of dark red blood. Splat! Amidst the splashing sound, Ouchie Orange's cheek felt cold. The liquid that couldn't be seen clearly splashed on the side of her face, bringing with it a strong smell of blood. A liquid with the smell of blood? Besides blood, Ouchie Orange couldn't think of anything else. Ouchie Orange's pupils slowly shrank to the size of a needle tip. Her mind was blank. Like a rusty robot, she slowly turned her head and looked to her side. Splat! Splat! Large amounts of crimson blood dripped onto the ground, forming a moderately sized pool of blood. Huff! Golden Wolf Bio let out a sound that could not be heard. His originally shining golden body seemed to have suddenly dimmed and lost its luster. That was because Golden Wolf Bio's body was mostly dyed red by blood. Taking a closer look, a pitch-black sword with pure white patterns on it had pierced through Golden Wolf Bio's chest and came out from his back. A large amount of blood gushed out from the Golden Wolf Bio's body, and in front of Golden Wolf Bio, Noah, who had appeared out of nowhere, used the night sword in his hand to fiercely pierce through Golden Wolf Bio's body. His eyes were still blooming with a fierce light that hadn't dissipated yet. No matter if it was Ouchie Orange, Ouchie Aoko, or Jiujiuju, they were all shocked by this extremely sudden scene in front of them. When did he attack? When did he get there? When did he hold a weapon from who knows where? At this moment, all of this became unimportant. Most importantly, in just the blink of an eye, Noah directly dealt a fatal blow to the Golden Wolf Bio, who only existed in fantasy and legends, and was even stronger than the dragons at the peak of the fantasy breed. Ouchie Orange finally recovered from her shock and quickly retreated. Roar! Golden Wolf Bio let out a violent roar. His front claws were like a flash of golden lightning. With a sudden wave, it was enough to cut through space, bringing with it a gust of wind, and fiercely cut towards Noah in front of him. However, the sharp claws that turned into lightning directly cut through the air in front of its owner. Not far away, Noah's figure suddenly appeared out of thin air. His feet touched the ground and he quickly retreated. Looking at Noah's ghostly appearance, Ouchie Orange couldn't help but feel a chill in her heart. If it was Kilda's, he would know that Noah was not really a ghost. He was just controlling the distance between him and Noah. Yes, control distance. Noah's night sword was a magic weapon that could control a range of 100 meters. The moment Ouchie Orange announced the start of the battle, Noah directly poured the magic in his body into the night sword, activating this ability that he hadn't used for a long time. The less than 100 meters distance between him and Bio was infinitely reduced to zero. It was as if he directly passed through space and appeared. The following matter was much easier. Under the situation where the distance was infinitely reduced, the speed of Noah's slash increased by nearly 100 times. In addition, there was a row of speed runes on the knight's sword. Golden Wolf Bio, who was just preparing to fight, naturally couldn't react in time, and was directly killed. This was Noah's surprise attack plan. It could be considered as a return gift to Golden Wolf Bio, who also appeared in front of him and launched a surprise attack against him. With Golden Wolf Bio's intelligence, there was naturally no way for him to understand the mystery of Noah's sword. However, the intense pain from the fatal wounds on his body completely aroused Golden Wolf Bio's ferocious nature, causing his gem-like resplendent eyes to turn scarlet red. Roar! Immediately, a berserk roar erupted from Golden Wolf Bio's mouth, which was constantly spitting out blood. Wong! Suddenly, Golden Wolf Bio's entire body emitted a dazzling light. In the dazzling light, Golden Wolf Bio directly turned into a meteor-like radiance. With a turn, he fiercely shot out. Shio! In the sharp sound of breaking the air, the golden meteor was like a meteorite falling from the sky. It rubbed against the atmosphere, causing the atmosphere to tremble and panic. The outline of the meteor seemed to be wrapped in a layer of flames as it mercilessly crashed into Noah's body. This process didn't even take a second. It was also only the blink of an eye. However, Noah was able to appear in front of Golden Wolf Bio in the blink of an eye, completely relying on the Night Sword's ability to control the distance within 100 meters. Golden Wolf Bio, on the other hand, relied purely on speed. This speed was even faster than the last time he retreated in front of Noah. Moreover, it wasn't just a bit faster. His field of vision was occupied by the dazzling light emitted by the golden meteor. At this critical moment, Noah's face tightened. He fiercely raised the knight's sword in his hand and placed it horizontally in front of his chest. The golden meteor directly crashed into the knight's sword. Clang! A shockingly loud sound that was 100 times louder than when the giant bell was fiercely struck suddenly shook the air like a storm, blowing in all directions. Noah only felt an unparalleled force impact the knight's sword in his hand. It was as if a heavy mountain was directly pressing down on it. The impact made Noah's hand numb. His body trembled and he was heavily sent flying. In a hurry, Noah only had time to stabilize his body and forcefully stomp on the ground. Gotcha! Where his foot landed, the ground was suddenly trampled by Noah. Pa 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 pa. Even in such a situation, Noah still couldn't dispel all of the force. His body was pushed back violently, and in a series of bone-chilling shattering sounds, wherever he passed, the ground was crushed by Noah's powerful stomp, leaving 2 deep trenches in the ground. Shio! The golden beast that turned into a meteor like dazzling light did not show any mercy. Once again, it pierced through the air and shot in the direction of Noah, who was still madly retreating on the ground. Ding! At this moment, the sound of a bell faintly rang. Splash! Immediately, the sound of something falling into the water also rang. Build it up with wood and clay, wood and clay, wood and clay, build it up with wood and clay, my fair lady. When such a song came from the ground also shook like an explosion. It cracked open like a volcanic eruption, and a large piece protruded out. Wood and clay will wash away, falling down, build it up with bricks and mortar, my fair lady. The song was still reverberating, and as heavy and vigorous as a tower, fingers rose from the ground, forming a huge arm. Like a bridge, it suddenly waved in the direction of the golden meteor that was exploding towards Noah. The golden meteor that was flying through the air suddenly stopped without any warning. Dong! The huge arm landed in front of the golden meteor, causing the ground to tremble and rocks to crumble. Circuit. Continue. In the next second, an awe-inspiring voice rang out. Pung 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 pung. The phosphorescent blue light formed into heavy cannonballs, and with a dull thud, they landed one by one on the golden meteor's body. Pung 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 pung. Blue flames and thick smoke exploded on the golden meteor's body at the same time. Impressively, it was Aoko's magic bullet. As for that gigantic arm, it belonged to one of Yuju's strongest tamed demons, Tem's troll. Aoko! Yuju! Aoko's angry voice echoed above the stone ground. Don't forget. There's still us. Following that, Aoko's resolute voice resounded and reverberated in the air. Chapter 341. As a fantasy breed that was born from mystery and miracles, Golden Wolf Bio wouldn't be defeated by the magic of modern magicians under the rules of magic, where mystery was defeated by a higher level of mystery. Therefore, when Aoko's magic bullet hit Golden Wolf Bio's body, not only did it not cause any injury, Golden Wolf Bio didn't even feel the slightest bit of pain. However, Aoko's overconfident attack angered Golden Wolf Bio. Roar! Amid a soul-trembling howl, the golden meteor rotated and transformed back into its golden wolf form as if it were a liquid. Golden Wolf Bio, who had once again returned to his sacred golden wolf form, not only did his resplendent fur return to its original dazzling golden color, but the fatal wound on his body that was enough to kill an ordinary life form had also disappeared. It was as if nothing had happened. Seeing this scene from afar, Noah didn't show any surprise or shock. He only revealed a troubled expression as if he had expected this. Golden Wolf Bio was a miracle born from fantasy. Other than his lack of intelligence, he could be considered a perfect life form. As a fantasy breed, although Golden Wolf Bio was born in the form of a werewolf, his body wasn't fixed. Like a materialized soul, he could freely choose his own appearance. Therefore, the Golden Wolf Bio could transform into a golden meteor, a majestic gorilla, a powerful bull, or even a human form. It could transform into any form it wanted, and it could transform into anything. Even a disgusting existence like a protozoa could have a decent regenerative ability. Noah wasn't surprised at all that such a miraculous lifeform had a terrifying regenerative ability and an immortal body. However, in this way it would be difficult to defeat Golden Wolf Bio. Ayoko seemed to have considered the same thing. Her pretty face tensed up, and her arm that was flickering with phosphorescence subconsciously aimed at Golden Wolf Bio. Roar! Golden Wolf Bio howled at the moon. Amidst the resounding howl, his 4 limbs tightened. Bang! The ground that was trampled by his 4 powerful limbs let out a mournful cry and shattered into pieces. The Golden Wolf Bio shot out like an arrow. The fur on his body flowed like liquid. He was like a dazzling golden spear. Wherever he passed, the atmosphere would be torn apart. He was like a bolt of lightning as he shot toward Ayoko Aozaki. Ayoko didn't even have time to react. She only saw a blur before a sacred golden light appeared in front of her. Qingzi! Beside him, Yuju could not help but cry out in alarm. The Golden Wolf Bio's eyes flashed with an ominous glint. He mercilessly raised his front paw and ruthlessly slapped at Ayoko, bringing along a wave of pressure that made people's hearts tighten. If Ayoko was hit by this attack with Golden Wolf Bio's strength, she would definitely die. From start to finish, Ayoko Aozaki was unable to react in time. After all, the existence that had attacked Ayoko was far too weak compared to her. Unless Ayoko was able to use magic that originated from her origin, she definitely wouldn't be able to match the Golden Wolf Bio. Fortunately, there was someone on Ayoko's side who wasn't any weaker than the Golden Wolf Bio. Just as the Golden Wolf Bio's sharp claws violently swung out, a figure seemed to appear out of thin air. Amidst the tremors of space, this figure appeared without leaving a trace. He raised his pitch-black knight sword, full of fluctuating pure white patterns and engraved with runes, and met that terrifying claw with a hair's breadth. Clang! Like heavy steel colliding with steel, the sound of metal colliding was aroused in front of Ayoko. Like a storm, ripples spread out in all directions. Ayoko's tall and slender figure was swept up by the shockwave, and even Yuju was affected by it. Immediately, the 2 girls were blown into the air without any suspense. Woo! The towering Thames troll let out a long roar that sounded like it came from the horizon. It raised its bridge-like hands and caught Ayoko and Yuju, who were blown into the air, in the middle of its palms, blocking the unreasonable impact. Ha! Roar! Immediately, from the center of the shockwave, a cold shout and a roar sounded at the same time. Bang! Amidst a heavy muffled sound, the already violent shockwave became even more violent, exploding out in all directions. Bang! This was the sound of the ground directly collapsing into gravel. Pa! It was the sound of the trees in the forest that surrounded the stony ground breaking and falling. Whoosh! At the center of the fierce impact, 2 figures flew out from the inside with a sharp sound of air breaking. They continuously pulled apart the distance between them, but at a certain moment, they steadied themselves at the same time. They fiercely stomped on the ground. Instead of retreating, they advanced and charged forward. Chi! The excessive speed made 1 person and 1 beast turn into 2 streams of light, 1 white and 1 gold. Like a thunderbolt, they flashed through the air and heavily collided with each other. Dong! Amidst the thunderous noise, the 2 streams of light, 1 white and 1 gold, separated from each other amidst the surging waves. They then spun around like fish in water, drawing a beautiful arc in the air before colliding with each other once again. Dong! 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 Therefore, on the stone ground that was incomparably weak compared to the power of 1 person and 1 beast, the 2 streams of light, 1 white and 1 gold, crazily collided again and again. After separating, they collided again and again. Like a meteor chasing each other, they gradually moved the battlefield. Looking at the 2 streams of light, 1 white and 1 gold, gradually moving further away, and then looking at the scene that had become battered and exhausted as if it had been attacked by a violent storm. Everywhere there were cracks on the ground, broken stones, and holes. Even Ayoko Aochi and Yoju's cheeks were slightly pale. He can actually fight with Bio like that monster. Aochi Ayoko's expression became gloomy, but after a while she relaxed. Raising her head, she looked at Aochi Ayoko and Yuju who were standing on the palm of the Thames troll and smiled cruelly. In this way, both of our trump cards have been used at the same time. What do you plan to do next? As soon as her voice fell, the magical power in Ouchie Ouchie's body rose little by little. Ayoko Aoki and Yuju, who were standing on the palm of the Thames troll, noticed that tiny dots of light like fireflies were slowly appearing in the surrounding forest and on the stone ground. That is, Ayoko Ouchie and Yoju's expression changed. Those tiny specks of light were actually runes. That was Ouchie Ouchie's magic, the same magic as Noah's runey magic. Ouchie! Ayoko Ouchie glared at her sister below. In order to eliminate the traps you set here, I spent a lot of time. On the contrary, it was much easier to engrave these runes, and I finally finished it. Ouchie 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 laughed cruelly. Ouchie, you just said not to forget about you, but you forgot about me. Don't tell me you think I'm just watching from the side? Now you are in my territory. Ouchie 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 Ouchie's eyes revealed a hint of happiness. Future mage, pure-blooded witch, don't let me down. Ayoko Ouchie Ouchie clenched her fists in the face of Ouchie 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 Ouchie's provocative words. She suppressed all the emotions in her heart and calmed down. This is Ouchie Ouchie's territory, and it's not good for us. Yuju, what should we do? Let's fight. Yuju said concisely. The opponent has their territory, and we also have our advantages. After saying that, Yuju secretly glanced in a direction, which attracted Ayoko Ouchie's gaze. In the next moment, Ayoko Ouchie saw it. She saw the gorgeous scabbard inserted in the ground, which was blooming with golden light. That was left behind by Noah before he left. Yoju's voice slowly sounded. We are being taken care of, Ouchie. If we lose, it will be very embarrassing. Ayoko Ouchie's eyes flashed with a strange light, and after a while she calmed down. Ouchie 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 took a deep breath, and her face revealed a stern expression. Isn't that a given? The battle of fate had begun here. Chapter 342. In the tranquil forest, a small stream flowed down from the mountain peak in the distance. It was like a small Milky Way, embellishing this lush mountain, causing the surroundings of the stream to be filled with a peaceful feeling. However, this tranquility did not last for long. Whoosh! Two streams of light, one white and one gold, were like two meteors chasing each other. They suddenly appeared in the midst of a sharp sonic boom. They circled in the sky above the forest like swallows, and then they suddenly collided head-on. Boom! For a moment, as if a meteorite had collided with the earth, a deafening loud noise exploded in the sky above the forest. It carried a strong shockwave, and like a gale, it attacked in all directions, blowing the tall trees in the forest below. Bang! In the heavy sound of collision, the two streams of light, one white and one gold, in the center of the impact, were like two rubber balls that had hit the wall. They suddenly bounced off each other and landed in a corner of the forest below. Not only did they smash the ground into pieces, but they also did not reduce their momentum at all, and only slowly stopped after rubbing out a long gully. Noah, who was holding the knight's sword, supported himself with one hand on the ground. His body was like a crouching leopard, and the moment he stabilized his body, he raised his head and looked at the opposite side with a dignified expression. Roar! Opposite Noah, the golden wolf Bio's body was also tense. He arched his body and let out a roar that shook the air in the direction of Noah. In his emerald green eyes, ferocity was constantly rolling, making the beautiful and sacred figure of the golden wolf Bio look full of wildness, and it was terrifying. However, perhaps because he did not expect that he still could not finish off his opponent, the golden wolf Bio's ferocious beast eyes revealed a hint of fear and caution. He was like a lone wolf that was slowly approaching its prey, staring at Noah who was opposite him. Presumably, with the intelligence of the golden wolf Bio, there was no way for him to understand why he, who had always been invincible in the past, could not finish off his opponent this time. Compared to the golden wolf Bio, Noah was also more cautious in his heart. If one were to observe carefully, they would discover that Noah's hand that was holding the sword was actually trembling slightly. Feeling his arm trembling uncontrollably, Noah stared at the golden wolf Bio with flickering eyes. His strength, defense, and speed are all above mine? Noah's body had been strengthened many times by the protozoan virus. Coupled with the DNA of various species, in terms of physical ability, he was definitely not weaker than any of the cursed children. However, compared to the golden wolf Bio who was made up of mysteries and miracles, Not only did he only exist in fantasy, but he was also affected by the world fragment. If it was just physical strength alone, there was indeed no way to contend against him. Needless to say, after several confrontations, he was able to numb Noah's arm with just his strength. Needless to say, he was very strong. Furthermore, the Golden Wolf Bio was able to use his claws to fight against Noah's Night Sword, which was strengthened by a large number of hardening and sharpening runes. It was easy to imagine how high his body's defense was. However, this was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that Noah had already seen that the Golden Wolf Bio's true strength was not his strength nor his defense, but his speed. If it was not for the fact that Noah was able to use the Night Sword's ability to control the distance at will and leap, he would not have been able to fight with the Golden Wolf Bio to a standstill. In the last confrontation, although Noah had used his full strength, he had hidden his Night Sword and revolver. The Golden Wolf Bio did not seem to have used his full strength in the first confrontation. Just like Noah, he had hidden some of his strength. Therefore, in this battle, no matter if it was Noah or the Golden Wolf Bio who was lacking in intelligence, both of them had a complete understanding of the situation. At this moment, the opponent in front of them was a strong enemy in the truest sense. After understanding this point, the Golden Wolf Bio did not care for the time being. However, Noah laughed, and he laughed very excitedly. If I don't do this, then it would be boring. As soon as he finished speaking, a dense blue flame suddenly burned on Noah's body. Come. It's your turn. Magician. The other weapon in Noah's soul not only directly awakened from its master's call, it also released its true power in an instant. Dense blue flames rolled up amidst the vibrations in the air. They flowed out and gathered on Noah's back, turning into inorganic mechanical wings. Gotcha! The pitch-black wing rotated, and the nozzle at the tip of the wing emitted a large amount of black light with a bang sound. Like two pairs of pitch-black light wings, they spread out on Noah's back. On the inorganic mechanical black wings that formed the wings of light, streams of light constantly flowed on the mysterious runes. The magician, who had transformed into the death feather form, stuck close to Noah's back, allowing Noah to float. Of course, Noah didn't just unleash his magician. Looking carefully on Noah's arm, a bright light pattern spread out, covering Noah's sword hand. Impressively, it was the enhanced magic. The two weapons that were born from the soul blaze. The mysterious runes on the weapons that were added to the soul. In addition, there was another skill that he had trained for a long time, enhance. At this moment, Noah finally brought out all his strength in the truest sense. He no longer held anything back. Bang! The magician, who had transformed into the death feather form, spat out a large amount of black light, forming two pairs of pitch-black light wings, pushing away all of the surrounding airflow, causing the atmosphere to tremble. Noah looked at the Golden Wolf Bio with a burning gaze. Those pitch-black eyes flickered with vigor, causing the Golden Wolf Bio's hair to stand up like spikes, and he let out a threatening roar. In response, Noah just calmly raised the Night Sword in his hand and said, "Come." Roar. As if provoked, the Golden Wolf Bio stared at Noah with his blood-red eyes, and then his four limbs fiercely stomped on the ground. Bang! A huge crack spread out from under the Golden Wolf Bio's feet, causing the Golden Wolf Bio's body to explode with a terrifying sound. He suddenly appeared in the air in front of Noah, who had left the ground. His sharp claws were like the edge of a blade, flickering with a cold light, and fiercely slashed at Noah's throat. Pa! Wherever the sharp claws passed, a few faint black marks were cut out in the air. Seeing this, Noah's eyes flashed. With a thought, the magician on his back immediately spat out a pair of black light wings, pushing the air, causing Noah to quickly retreat. An afterimage emerged like a phantom. Swish! The Golden Wolf Bio's attack directly hit the air. With the death feather form of the magician, in addition to the speed rune on the magician, Noah's speed was finally not inferior to the Golden Wolf Bio, and he easily dodged the Golden Wolf Bio's fierce attack. Roar! The Golden Wolf Bio angrily roared. His body flew out, cutting through the air, and once again appeared in front of Noah. His sharp claws and teeth carried a deep sound as they pierced through the air, and fiercely smashed towards Noah in front of him. Looking at the storm-like Golden Wolf Bio, Noah bent his finger and flicked it. A bright white light suddenly flashed in front of him. Bang! The golden wolf Bio's sharp claws fiercely smashed into the white light, bringing about a deep sound. However, in the next moment, the white light wrapped around the golden wolf Bio's sharp claws. Bang! In the white light, the golden wolf Bio's sharp claws actually directly shattered and exploded. Super advanced destruction magic, crush. Roar! The golden wolf Bio let out a painful low roar. This moment, the knight's sword in Noah's hand trembled as he retreated, causing Noah's body to suddenly disappear. When he reappeared, he was already in front of the golden wolf Bio. Soon after, a fist that was mixed with a whirlpool of air heavily smashed onto the waist of the golden wolf Bio. That was the annihilation strike. Dong! In the muffled sound, the golden wolf Bio's low roar came to an abrupt end. His body flew backwards like a kite with a broken string, and heavily smashed into the ground.